Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown, John Tortorelli, and Mr. Joe Dehls. And that's now episode 483. In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the biggest playoff storylines. We're going to talk about the Pacers if Tyrese Haliburton is walking himself into being a top 5 point guard, maybe even higher in the NBA. If Jalen Brunson can outduel and outplay Jayson Tatum in their playoff series, give a tribute to Gregg Popovich because he just stepped down as a head coach, and we have to give a tribute to how excellent he's been and how much he means to the game of basketball. And we're going to talk about much more. Now, we have a 4-man group right now. Drew is not here today because he gave John the opportunity to be on the show today.
Thank you, Drew. I was pretty excited to get here today. I felt like we had a lot of pretty exciting stuff to talk about. 3 underdogs all winning in game 1 of
including your round, Denver Nuggets.
Including my Denver Nuggets. And on top of that, we have a couple of good games going on right now. Got the Pacers and the Cavs in a 1-score game, and also Warriors T-Wolves tonight, game 1. So it really can't be that much better of a time. We're in the climax, it feels like, of the NBA postseason.
Climax. How you feeling, Riv?
I feel good, man. We've got some good basketball. Was able to watch the games this morning because we're doing testing at school. So a lot of free time. So I was able to catch up. But happy to be here, man. Happy to talk some hoops.
I was going to say, you fall asleep earlier last night? Because you weren't texting me at all about the Celtics game. You texted me
No, I got home like around 10.
Okay.
Took a shower, 8.
Went to sleep.
Straight to sleep, yeah.
I feel that.
But I texted you earlier today.
Yeah,
I was like, I woke up and I'm like, they lost.
I don't even get a good morning from Riv. It's just whatever I sent him last time about the Pacers.
Y'all lost? I was like, oh, man, you guys blew a 20-point lead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we got to get into on today's show. Now, number one, if you guys are watching this, make sure you guys drop that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And also, if you guys want to help out the podcast further, you're already supporting us a lot by watching this, dropping a like, or commenting. But if you want to support us even further, you go to Prize Picks and use code PAS. If you play $5, you get $50. So go support Prize Picks. You support Pick a Side as well in the same breath. When you guys do that, thank you very much. Now, there's a lot to talk about.
Why is Luka up there, man?
Because Luka Doncic is one of the top point guards in the league.
I thought the same thing.
Like, aren't we talking about guys who are still in the playoffs? Like, how are we talking about these guys?
Topic today. That's why.
It is a topic.
It is a topic.
I just feel like Pop's valid. Reese is valid. He played really well.
For sure. Brunson's valid.
Brunson, you could have threw up here too, yeah. Just felt like we could have just put a blank there. Or maybe like somebody else, you know?
Yeah. So I feel like I want to address something in the room real quick. I feel like a lot of the times with the live streams that we've been doing, with the instant reactions, they are very late, and all the top comments are always about Riv or Drew being unable to make it. I understand the sentiment. I understand where you guys are coming from, but you guys also have to understand that they do work jobs. They do have to commute in the morning, so it makes sense not staying up until 1 to 2 in the morning. So you got to give them some grace there. But we're doing it every night. At least we're trying to do the playoff reactions. But we're also trying to do at least 2 in-studio episodes a week. And then, of course, after the playoffs are over, we're going to be back to the normal schedule, just doing in-studio recordings. Drew was here today to do most of the pre-recorded stuff that we did before we did the show. And then he was going to record the show. But then, John was just here. And Drew said, John's been locked in. He's been working hard. So he could do the show today. So it was very generous of him, but I think the conclusion that I came to is that we just got to get a 5-person setup at this point.
That's a fact.
We just got to get a 5-person setup and get an interface that holds 5 microphones. Right now, at most, this holds 4, so it's difficult on the production aspect, but just got to get 5.
You can fit me and John petite asses.
You guys are a little skinny, a little thin. I'll be honest, you guys could both probably fit in one of these chairs.
He can sit on my lap.
Or that.
Okay.
You guys can share a mic.
Put that
I
ass
was
right
thinking
on
about it
my
the other day. I think the desk setup was so much better.
You think so?
Why?
Yes, I think it just gave it more of a debatey battlefield. I feel like this feels like we're lounging, and when I come and record a Pick a Side episode, I want to go at your throat. I don't want to lounge. This makes me a little
put
bit,
it in there. Huh?
This makes me a little bit too comfortable. What do you think, John?
I do feel like you can't kind of get into a debate with Dehls, who's right next to you, because you're like.
But we were the same on the desk. We were the same. We're still next to each other. You know what I mean?
A little more space though on the desk, because Dehls,
I guess
Joel was far back, and the next closest seat was like here. So like you're actually like facing him when you're yelling at him. But if I want to yell at you, it's like, God damn it, Dehls. Like it's like
we just want to need a different
feet
desk.
Are touching at the same time.
I don't know. When me and Joel yell at each other, it's very easy. We can.
Well,
just
you guys,
do it.
yeah.
It's very like. I get it.
I do prefer the setup.
I'm cool with either. Like I don't really give a fuck.
You want to switch it again?
I was thinking about it.
500?
I like the desk setup more. It's just like you said, the desk was what was kind of uncomfortable about it. But I like the desk setup with like having the computer in front of us, being able to search some things up on the fly. I like that a little bit better.
It was just the seating was kind of like awkward seating. You know what I mean? Because like we were close up against that wall, so like we couldn't really have someone on the side. It was tight. And then there was so much room on Riv's side that like. I didn't need all that room. It was just awkward.
Yeah. This is like an interview style setup design where like, you know, you look at all the debate shows on TV, it's like a table conference. Yeah. You know.
Well, honestly, all of if you think of like ESPN and Fox, they all got like tables, you know what I mean? But I feel like when I'm thinking of podcasts, it's more so like this type of vibe.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, man. I gotta ask you because thank you for telling the fans that me and Drew work. Cause
you're a better man than me. I thought they were ducking.
Yeah, no. I was there when Warriors lost and they almost blew the 3-1 lead, so I felt like I had to be there for that night.
Facts.
So I was like, because if they blew,
I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, and I was gonna be there if they lost or won because I felt like fans were gonna ask me to be here. So I tried my best to stay up. But I gotta ask you, man, because you was trolling the other day in the chat. I had to leave the chat. You was giving me a headache.
Did you join back?
Huh? No.
Oh, we gotta.
Don't add me back. You just tell you, I need a day. He was trolling. He was doing too much, and I'm like, bro, I just gotta leave. But I gotta ask about the video, man, because the video it fucking killed me, man. The video, the way you were talking, felt like a WWE promo. Are you back? Like, is this Knicks are gonna win? Are you standing on this? Is like this is something that, or this is just you felt good? It was a game one vibe. You felt that way. You still think the Celtics are gonna win? Like, is this? The video was amazing. The video was beautiful. It was hilarious. But
so this is a message to Joe.
Yeah, like the call out was real. But are you gonna stand 10 behind the video? Is what and I'm sure the fans want to know.
There's certain sentiments that I laid out in that video, and we'll play the video right here and then transition into what I'm saying right now.
This is a message to Joel Dehls. I told you each game that was passing by, the Knicks were getting closer and closer and closer. Game 1 was a blowout. Game 2 was a blowout. Game 3 was a blowout. Game 4, we were right there. It was there for the taking, but we ain't get it. Game 1, we finally come away with the overtime victory. And you want to know what makes this even sweeter? Jayson Tatum didn't play well. OG Anunoby was better. Jalen Brunson was better. I've been told you, he not in no top 3 talks. You better cut that out. You better stop playing. Because he ain't show up in game 1. And Jalen Brunson, Captain Clutch, Club Player of the Year, he did. OG Anunoby, he did. Mikael Bridges, he did. Cat, he did. We all showed up. And y'all did it. 1-0. We up.
So there's a lot of truths in that video, and I carefully worded every single sentence that I had in that video. I talked about the game. Everything that happened within a game was factual.
Facts.
We outplayed them. We did. You want to know what I'm standing 10 toes on? Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear Jayson Tatum in any of these top conversations. I don't. Because you want to criticize Luka for not having a center and losing to the Timberwolves and being gassed in the fourth quarter.
Drew told us Jackson Hayes was the truth.
In the last 2 fourth quarters in the playoffs, Jayson Tatum has been absolutely trash. He hasn't shot well at all. He's been one of the least efficient fourth quarter players. I have the numbers right in front of me just so the audience doesn't think I'm lying. This year in the fourth quarter, Tatum is shooting 32% from the field, 20% from 3. Last year, 37% from the field, 19% from 3. Walk me through that, Dehls. What's the reason
right
he's missing shots? Is he out of shape? Is he out of condition? Because if this was Luka Doncic, that's all you'd be saying.
Well, Luka Doncic had similar numbers this playoff run. If you look in the fourth quarter, it was probably actually worse than that. Like, he really wasn't anything. He was at like 25% from the field. But no, Jayson Tatum has been, I don't disagree. I don't think he's been a great fourth quarter player. He obviously hasn't been an efficient fourth quarter player. I'd argue he hasn't really been an efficient player overall these last two playoff runs. So you can look at the fourth quarter, but overall he hasn't been the most efficient self. But I don't think Jayson Tatum's been gassed. I think he's been missing some shots. I do think he'll bounce back from this performance because what I've seen from the Boston Celtics over these last 2 years is they're going to go on deep playoff runs, something that unfortunately Luka wasn't able to do this year. And they're possibly going to championship like they did last year, something that Luka Doncic has been unable to do so far in his career. So we can talk about the fourth quarter numbers all we want, but I have a hard time finding a team that has won as much as the Boston Celtics over the last 4 years. So whatever he's doing might not be effective, but he's got some gravity. He's got some defense. He's the best rebounder of the team. He's a great playmaker.
He has the better team.
He contributes to winning plays. So, you know what I mean? It takes what it is. And that's interesting because, the Celtics get called a super team a lot, right? And it's fine. I take it with the, off the shoulder. I don't care. It's super team. But I look at this Cleveland Cavaliers team who a lot of people, thought that they could beat the Celtics this year. You included, Mr. Miranda. A lot of people, John included, I think, that could beat this Boston Celtics team. It's
the injuries. You talking about the injuries now?
I know where you're going with this.
I just look at game one, and Darius Garland missed some time.
Wait, why are you
right?
bringing up the Cavs? The hell?
I'm just super team. I'm just thinking super team, right? Because I think you look at this. This Cavs team is awesome.
What the hell?
This Cavs,
not one of us, not Drew. None of us here.
Okay, I'm just saying this Cavs team is awesome, and you thought they would beat the Boston Celtics regardless.
I still believe that. Healthy, yes.
Okay, well maybe we'll see if they could get healthy. I hope they do.
When you were healthy, you lost. You blew a 20-point lead.
Yeah, we were also unhealthy last year and won the championship, only losing 3 games. So I just like to think of last year, when the Celtics were missing their third best player in Porzingis. I think Tatum and Brown probably 1 and 2.
Yeah.
They lost 3 games on their way to the finals and went in the finals. And this year, all of a sudden, Garland's out. It's like, oh man, our third best player's out. It's over. It's off. We're done. It's over.
We just lost one game. We're not panicking.
All right. I felt some panic.
We're not panicking.
I just want to counter what you said about the contributing to winning. I know Tatum is a top player, but it's easier to look like you're more impactful than guys that are actually more impactful when you have teammates that are able to lift your behind when you're not playing well, when you're shooting terrible in the fourth quarter. Jayson Tatum last year, we know that playoff run, despite all the numbers people want to throw at you, we know he wasn't that good in the playoffs according to superstar standards, and they won because they had an easy path to the finals, and their team was stacked. You had so many contributors. When's the last? Jayson Tatum averaged 21 in the finals. He shot in the 20% from 3. Superstar. He was below 40%.
Sometimes the scoring ain't there for my brother.
What are we talking about? And he has such a great team, and against a Mavericks team that people say they didn't really have great perimeter defense personnel. Tatum still struggled. Come on,
Joel. I would be with you, but you picked the Mavs last year, and this year, because you're talking about Luka so much,
didn't play well.
You picked the Lakers this year. I don't know.
I picked the Lakers this year, absolutely. But Luka Doncic averaged 30. He didn't play bad.
He didn't show
30 on 61% true shooting.
He didn't show up in the fourth quarter.
All right, Tatum's not. He didn't show up in the first quarter game 1. That's why they lost.
Look at Tatum's numbers in this playoffs. He's averaging what, 30 a game?
Like
Tatum has been playing well. I'm not going to say he hasn't.
So what, I don't know what we're doing here.
The Timberwolves just a better team than the Lakers. I gave the Timberwolves a realistic chance.
You picked the Lakers.
I didn't overlook that.
You picked the Lakers.
Yeah, but I said this is the toughest series that I have to predict. And you said I could see the Lakers winning in 5
Joel,
rather than the Wolves winning at all.
I respect the pat on your own back. I gave him a fighting chance. You picked the Lakers, brother.
It don't
matter. Got smoked.
John, what did I start with? I said this is the toughest series I had to predict. I said it. This is the one that's tough. And I said this is tough. The Wolves got a realistic chance. Man. They got a great team.
Riv, I got a question
said all
for you.
the data points.
I got a question for you.
Point to them.
Hold on.
Absolutely.
Joel, hold on.
We all picked the Lakers.
Riv, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah, what's up? Talk to me.
You go to the corner store, right? You play the lottery. You know what? I want 19, 31, 25. Oh, I want 19, 31, 25 real bad, Riv. But you know what? Now I'm going to go with 23, 16, 14. And God damn it, who was the winning lottery ticket, Riv? Do you see that damn money?
It's not the same thing. Because the playoff series is not a lottery ticket. I think of this more as when you bet, when you go on a FanDuel app, whatever, there's not no sponsorship. When you go on a FanDuel app, there are some bets that you can make that you can cash out earlier on because they were more in line to what is correct.
Yeah,
there are sometimes
the
wronger you are, let's say you bet $10 and it's to win $20. The wronger you are, let's say it's a player's points. I'm betting 28. Let's say he has 18 in the first quarter. you can cash out right there for more money if you wanted to. But if he's playing poorly, you're not going to get any return on that. I got a return on the Wolves because I wasn't blatantly disrespectful.
Wait, what?
I wasn't.
Who'd you get a return?
The return was I wasn't blatantly disrespectful. If it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have spent more than 2 minutes talking about the Timberwolves. That's a fact.
But
because if it wasn't for me, we would have breezed by the entire thing. I wasn't wrong on my analysis. I may have been wrong on the prediction, and that's what I'm saying. If people heard my analysis, there was comments that was even saying it. They said, Joel, you laid out all these points for the Timberwolves winning, and you still picked the Lakers.
Yeah, Wolves fans, respectfully, y'all got no backbone. Letting this man in year after year. He's picking against you every first round. He's like, I don't know, but he somehow gets right back into Minnesota.
Love. He loves Luka
and
so
they
much.
couldn't be more correct because I made the right analysis. I just made the wrong pick. But that's fine. You can live with that. I wasn't way off base. And you want to know why they still rock with me? Because last year, even though I picked against them in the first round, I picked for them against the Denver Nuggets, the defending champions.
That's a good call.
And then I said, I got Minnesota in 7 games, by the way. In 7 games, by the way.
They still hate me.
7 games, by the way.
So Rip picked Minnesota. You weren't the only one.
I picked Minnesota against Phoenix, actually, also.
Oh, it seems like if there's a Minnesota fan up here, it's my brother over here.
And Rip, to answer your question,
Jumped on Dehls.
I have more faith in the Knicks now after they won game 1. And I told Dehls and I explained to him that each game the Knicks played them, it was getting closer and closer and closer and closer.
That sentence killed me because he's like, every game got closer. Game 1 blowout, game 2 blowout, game 3 blowout, game 4 was close.
And that's why I told him, I said, Dehls, we're getting closer. I think we're going to win game 1. And I told John and Rudy on the stream, I think we're going to win game 1. I think that's the game we win. Now, if that's the only game we win all series, then that's how it's supposed to be.
So what's your prediction?
I think it's going to be Celtics in 6. I still have the Celtics winning, but this game 1 gave me more confidence in the Knicks. But I do have to acknowledge the amount of missed threes the Celtics had. But I also have to acknowledge that the Knicks didn't play perfect basketball. They got out-rebounded. They shot 40% from 2. They missed so many free throws. And I know Mitchell Robinson, they were hacking him to get to the line. But still, even outside of Mitch, we were missing free throws. We didn't play our best game. And although the Celtics missed threes, some of those were great open looks. A lot of those were stupid shots. A lot of those were the Knicks switching and getting the Celtics to shoot off-balance contested threes, and that's why they missed so much. So I think the Knicks deserve a lot of credit, and this is our biggest test, to go up against David and Goliath. This is what the Celtics are. They're Goliath. That's what they are. And we all know that everybody wants them to lose because everybody hates the Celtics. We all know that. Sure. And if the Knicks were the team to do that, it would be the best thing for me possible. Even if I pick the Celtics to win this series. If the Knicks end up slaying Goliath, you're in trouble, Dehls.
I'm in trouble?
You're in trouble.
You're definitely in trouble.
You're in trouble, Dehls.
And yeah, because that
you're
means
in trouble, Dehls. Tatum doesn't. He's not in the Luka conversation. He drops to the Brunson might pass him if he beats him.
There's nothing I love more than a player dropping because they make it further in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like if the Celtics lost in round 1 and Tatum averages like 30, no one's saying nothing.
So does Luka drop?
Does he?
No.
Sometimes it's better to get bounced in round 1, Riv. Sometimes it is for your legacy, like Jordan, LeBron. Sometimes it's better not to go to the finals 10 times.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. Listen, man, it is what it is. Tatum's great, Brunson's great, all these guys are great, man. It's just
good hoops.
Good hoops. That's I think that's the benefit of this all. We're getting great hoops, great games. The playoffs have been excellent. I think they've been so much better than last year. It's like not even funny. We've enjoyed some great series, and I'm excited. I'm like those games, watching them today. OKC Denver was amazing from wire to wire. Boston and the Knicks game got amazing in the second half. That's exactly what you want. You don't want a 20-point blowout. You really don't. You want down to the wire at your best, and it's unfortunate Tatum didn't show up. And Brunson's been electric all the playoffs. He's been fucking amazing, and that's what you want to see from a person who's if you have him in your top 10, he's definitely on the cusp of top 10. He's right in that conversation. He's been elite, so credits to him.
This has been the best first round of the playoffs, I think, in a while. And then the second round started off better than you could start the second round. The Pacers upset the Cavs, and then you got 2 great games that came down to the absolute wire. I mean, Dehls, after the Knicks won that game, it was nothing but happy thoughts going on. Yeah, I was texting my cousin during the game because I told him to come downstairs to watch it with me. And then he texted me
The 3-point variance is back.
In the
Smoking
middle,
these dudes.
my cousin was just like, listen, man, I'm going to play Marvel Rivals. This game is boring. And it was true. There was 27 fouls called in the first half. And, that's over a foul per minute. It was unwatchable. I was taking naps in the second quarter, just in between there. And then every time I opened up my eyes, there was another foul call. And I was just like, okay, maybe I could sleep a little bit while they're at the free throw line. But then the second half, we were getting blown out. I kept watching. And then we got close, and I told my cousin, yo, bro, we're back in this game. Like, we might win.
He came back down?
Yeah, he came back down. We watched the game. And then seeing Brunson tie the game up, seeing Brunson take the lead for us while Jayson Tatum was choking, and so was Jaylen Brown. OG locking him up, and Mikal Bridges. I don't care about the points.
Most impactful
He
eight you'll ever
played
see.
an elite level game, and Mikal Bridges is giving me some confidence with the leadership he's instilled in the team and the added sense of motivation and passion that he's brought to the unit. If we get a version of Mikal and OG, I'm walking away from the series with something, Dehls. If the Celtics win, I'll be distraught. It'll hurt, but I expect it. If Jayson Tatum plays bad in this series, that's what I'm asking from the Knicks. I'm asking for Tatum to play bad in this series. Please give it to me. Please make him play bad. Please make him struggle.
Please give it to
Please.
me.
Please, below 40% from the field and the 30% from the three. Oh, I'm begging. Just make Tatum struggle.
And win or lose. Or it doesn't matter. As long as Tatum struggles,
He's coming out.
That's
As long
an
as
elite
Tatum
hate
struggles,
watch.
I win.
respect
That's
it.
an elite hate
Last
watch.
night, I hate watching it went well for you because Tatum went 0-7 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, tough game.
It's
Jaylen
kinda what
Brown
I
was 1 of
expected
10
from last year.
Point land, which is what the two
Much
of
of the
Jay
same.
shot in the fourth quarter. Look, last night was the Knicks' night. OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson, 29
awesome,
points.
man. They were
OG Anunoby this season had a career high. Best season of his career, 18 points per game. In the playoffs, it's 19. He's averaging 3.5 stocks. And then last night's game going 6 to 10 from 3-point land. Another example of getting that elite shooting. It's what last year allowed Donte DiVincenzo to be that key piece. And I feel like the unsung hero will have to be Mikal Bridges, but Karl-Anthony Towns' defense and his rebounding late in that game, it also helped Tatum kept settling from 3-point land. And you really do have to question if the guy's tired, if he has to keep settling possession after possession, if he's big switched on to him. That's something which, as the series goes on, is going to be the biggest key for Boston. Can Tatum put his head down and get to the rim? Because for Boston, they cannot continue to settle the way they did last night. And I feel like the biggest question with Tatum last postseason was his shot selection and the quality of the looks that he was taking. I feel like last night was a good example of that after a series versus the Magic where it was the complete opposite. But all things considered, I think last night was a good example of what the Knicks envisioned. We talked about it on the stream, and I think the entire starting lineup came out clutch when it really mattered.
Yeah, I feel like, the Tatum shot selection, you have to wonder if part of that is fatigue kicking in with his conditioning in the fourth and settling for jump shots and not going to the rim. You have to question if maybe fatigue is playing a factor and his legs are not all the way under him. And maybe he has to go through a whole offseason program where, he is locked in on the conditioning aspect, so he's not settling for so much jump shots.
Maybe. You never
Dehls,
know.
what do you think about that?
Personally, I don't think so. I think Jayson Tatum is one of the most well-conditioned players in the NBA. You talk about what he does around the rim, getting boards, going up there with
Does a lot.
16, 17
Yeah, he
rebounds
does.
last night. He's banging with them dudes down
Well-rounded
low.
player.
He's guarding centers. He's guarding dudes in the post, getting
Jack of
banged
all
on,
trades.
getting banged on.
Jack of all trades.
You know what I mean? So
I'll be honest. Like an inefficient night from Anthony Edwards and Tatum just aren't the same.
for you,
Edwards
because
does it with so much confidence and energy and just
like the game 5 against the Lakers, like the game 7
Emphaticness.
against Denver, he could just
They
stink
won
it up
game
and it's
5.
okay.
yeah,
They do be winning.
because
They be winning.
after game 7 against Denver, I remember Dehls being in the reaction right after saying, even though he didn't play well from a shooting standpoint, he played like a superstar. This
Absolutely.
was a superstar performance.
Because Dehls loves to, if you don't score, as long as you give me everything
Listen,
else.
you love Anthony Edwards more than anyone. I love Ant. Ant is maybe my favorite player outside of Boston. I love what Ant does. Everything he brings outside of scoring, the tenacity he plays with, the passion he plays with. I love Anthony Edwards. It's just funny, some guys can be inefficient. It's fine.
It looks good.
And
It
some
looks
guys,
good.
some guys, if they're inefficient, they're dog shit.
Because you know what they're saying? Because Anthony Edwards is mic'd up saying, Rudy Gobert, yeah, that's my teammate. Yeah, show him. He almost had 30 on you guys. That leadership, that vocalness from Anthony Edwards, the confidence. I want to play for him. I don't want to be on Tatum's team.
Yeah, I think
I think you could ask any player around the NBA.
I think you just want to fuck him. I think that's the difference. I think you just want to fuck him.
No. Be honest. If you guys were good enough to play in the NBA and you could only be on one of their teams, Edwards or Jayson Tatum, whose team would you want to play on?
I mean, I would want to play on Boston.
No, but just like you're their counterpart.
I would be a guard, so yeah.
Play for Tatum. He's just a guy that doesn't matter who the team is, doesn't matter who the coach is. You're going to the conference finals every year.
I'm a guard, so
on the finals 2
yeah,
years.
I think I'd play with Ant too. He instill a different type of confidence.
Yeah,
in me.
like you feel me? No bullshit. If I'm a point guard, I need that.
How about you, John? Who are you picking?
Offense.
Honestly, I think you can't go wrong with either selection.
You're Dante DiVincenzo, bro. Like bar for bar.
So
yeah, like,
on one hand, I think Anthony Edwards' leadership would be something that any role player would want to play off.
Nah, don't just.
If I'm playing in Minnesota,
he's paying Pritchard, real shit.
Pritchard? Okay.
Yeah, if I'm a NBA player, theoretically, I'm gonna have to play off one of these guys.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he's like a ball handler one-on-one.
Anthony Edwards is the type of teammate who unlocks the confidence in his peers. Man, they got
who's a better playmaker?
We got Jay McDaniels.
That's real shit. Like I'm coming down the lane and gonna be like, Riv, go at that nigga, man.
Then
like,
again,
I need that.
Fourth
that
quarter
vibe.
comes around, Tatum disappears, and Pritchard's time to shine.
Oh,
you know, so
Pritchard doesn't really play in the fourth.
Well, last night.
I feel like that was a jab.
It was.
Listen,
I'm already playing with Anthony
Greg
Edwards.
Porter Jr. minutes.
Here we go.
Nice. I'm already playing with Anthony Edwards in 2K. I built a point guard. I'm on the Timberwolves right now. You know,
fucking hate
I run floppy with him all the time.
I built a small forward. I'm on the Warriors. They needed
nice
because they got Jimmy at the 4. So
yeah.
I'll say this. Listen, we joke about the Tatum stuff. It is funny. I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's not funny. It is very funny.
It's one of my favorite things on the show.
I do think the reason why Tatum has these moments is because he doesn't have an elite trait on the scoring department. I want to say that. I don't think he has an like. You look at the players around the league, right? Let's use the Joker for an example. His elite trait is kind of everything in the scoring department.
Offense, yeah.
Steph Curry, his elite trait, his 3-point shooting. Giannis, his downhill transition, his finishing in the paint. Even SGA, mid-range. Yeah, I'm just using like one right now.
And just a 3-point
Steph
shooting.
Has 3.
Yeah, like
Giannis
Steph has, like Tatum only got 1 right now. I think he can do a little bit of everything, but he doesn't have one that he's truly, really comfortable with or like that's really elite. And that's why I think he has these moments where he settles for these jab step threes or these side step threes where I really don't think it's a defensive problem. Like I don't think these guys can guard him. I just think it really is a shot that I've seen him in games where he will take the same shot, whether it's a guard, a big, or forward. It really doesn't matter. He still takes the same dumb shot, and it's like, dude, like you're 6'10", you're like 240, you're strong, you're physical, you can finish, go to the basket, or like, bro, just get a better shot. Like that's really all it is. But Boston, for me, it just felt like their process was all wrong in the second half, specifically in the fourth quarter. They really started to settle for a lot of walkie shots and bad possessions, and that's not something you expect from a team with that type of experience, with that championship culture. And I think the Knicks just took advantage of that, and they were able to play hard down to the wire. Tom Thibodeau teams always play hard, and that's just one Boston fumbled. You got to bounce back, get it back in game 2. But the process for Boston was all wrong because that was a 20-point game. What, in the third with like 4 minutes left?
Yeah,
like
it was bad.
It could have turned into a 35-point game if Boston just continued with their or had a different process, but no.
Yeah, Boston went up 20, and then OG hit back-to-back threes, cut the lead down to 14, and all of a sudden you're like, a 20-point game and a 14-point game feels a whole lot different, even if it just is 2 possessions. But I really think Boston, and they've done this all year, and they're not the only team that struggles from this, but when they struggle offensively, it bleeds over to defense, right? Naturally, if you're missing shots, teams can get out in transition. You could cross match, so you get, better looks at the basket, whether that's just in transition or, finding guys in the corners, not getting back in time, losing guys off ball. I feel like that's what a lot of Boston's struggle was last night. They weren't generating good looks on offense. They were taking some early shot clock shots. There was multiple possessions in a row where they weren't even getting 2 feet in the paint. So I agree with you, Riv. The process was really ugly. Jayson Tatum, shot selection, like you mentioned down the stretch, he had 24 shot attempts, 13 of them or 14 of them were 3-pointers. So it hurts because in the regular season, he was one of the most efficient isolation players in the league. He was, in terms of points per possession, he was top 3 or top 4, I want to say. Up there with SGA and those guys in terms of just one-on-one isolation scoring. And I feel like this year, this was one of his most efficient years at the rim when he was able to attack downhill and finish around bigs. And we saw so much in the regular season against the Knicks when he was able to get that switch onto Karl-Anthony Towns, how easy was just his first step off the dribble, being able to get past him. And then once you get past Cat, there's really no one else down there that's going to be able to stop Jayson Tatum at the rim. But in this game, whether it was, fatigue, whether it was the shot selection, whether it was just some of these possessions start building on each other and you lose confidence, all of those times where I wanted him to get downhill, he wasn't doing it. And some of these threes, I'll be honest, weren't that close. Like, I can't sit here and be like, man, that one went in and out. Man, that one, just do it again and he'll get there. A lot of them were some long rebounds. A lot of them were he had an air ball at the end of the game. So it wasn't even like a lot of them were even that close. He hit back-to-back threes in that third quarter, which got him up to 4. But after that, didn't make a single one. The fourth quarter, of course, was 0 for 7, 0 for 9 in the fourth quarter in overtime. So, yeah, it was a really ugly game for Boston. I thought it was an awesome game for the Knicks, though. This is a Knicks team that had lost eight in a row, I want to say, to Boston, or they lost 8 of 9 dating back to the 2023 season.
Not no more.
And, yeah, I mean, I think everyone counted them out. The fact Celtics were minus 900. Hate to see that, just being that big of a favorite. Just never sits right with me, especially Boston this year. Have been one of the worst teams when it comes to covering double-digit spreads, as pointless as that kind of is. But, no, I mean, it's going to be a fun series. I think Boston's going to come out in game 2. It's a must-win. And this is the first time in over a year that Boston has faced a series deficit. They were never down the 2024 run. Of course, 2023 going back to the Heat matchup and the Sixers matchup, I believe they were also down 1-0 going against Philly. So it's been a while since they've been down in a series. I'm excited to see how they come out in game 2 because I think the shot selection will be different. I think the level to detail will be a lot different. There were some shots that I think they just missed. Some shots I think that were just forced. But overall, I still have faith that they'll be able to pull this out.
Nah, dude, no bad game is magnified more than a Jayson Tatum bad game.
That's a fact.
Jayson Tatum bad games, they're talked about for years.
No, it's someone tweeted, it's like every time Tatum has a bad game, everyone has to like look over his career and who he is as a player. And it's like one single bad game. Are we sure this guy's a superstar?
I saw this tweet that contributed to something that John said before. Before I say that,
oh shit, Craig
the last thing I'll say to your question you asked me around the 10-minute mark of this episode is even if the Knicks don't win this series, I'll always have May 5th, 2025. The game 1 victory. That felt like a series win. That felt huge and big time because it's game 1 of the series. You start a series off winning that first game. That gives you a lot of confidence that you have a realistic chance. It's not like being down 0-3 and then winning the game 4 when every shot is going right and then it's already over. No, you started the series with a W. You set the tone.
That's a fact. You got to think like
is a heavy underdog.
Like
you set the tone.
Imagine last year in the finals if the Mavericks in game 4 did that in game 1. How crazy we would have went after game 1. You know what I mean? But it's a fact. It counts as 1, but it feels different.
But to what you said, the point that I want to bring up, John, a tweet that I read on my TL. When I read it, an image of Johnson really came in my mind, and I was thinking about you for a while. And the tweet was, Jayson Tatum is just Paul George with 100% better roster construction.
Here we go.
That's what the tweet was. And I instantly thought of John Tortorelli.
Somebody said Jayson Tatum was Paul George with an A+ report card.
With an A+ supporting cast / roster construction. You're thinking of the same exact tweet.
No, I'm not.
It might be.
Maybe
it says worded a little bit differently.
Because I put it in the
Yeah, because A+ report card.
okay.
Yeah, but what do you think about that? I'll ask you again, John. Jayson Tatum is just Paul George with an A+ supporting cast. We're talking about Indiana Paul George.
I was having fun, and I put that in the group chat to get a reaction. And Mr. Joel Dehls here, this handsome gentleman.
I'm not reacting to none of that
he
bullshit, man.
came in, and the first thing he said was, so you think that Jayson Tatum is Paul George with an A+ roster? And I said, yep. I'll tell you what. I think that Jayson Tatum is a better player than Paul George, but as players, their archetypes are similar. And I also do believe that Tatum's deficiencies and some of his weaknesses, you could say, shot selection, 3-point shooting in the postseason, those are things which would be magnified much more in a different situation. Last night, Kristaps Porzingis left the game in the second quarter, and with that illness, it opened the door for the Knicks to win a game where everyone was playing at a high level. Mikal Bridges is at 51 minutes played, and he's playing defensively at an incredible and a very, very disruptive level. I do feel like at times the peak of Paul George is underappreciated. And I also think as a player he did some things better than Tatum. I'll say that. I think he was a more consistent shooter. I do think he's a better ball handler. And even after breaking his leg, he was a better athlete before. But after, we saw in 2019, he was, as a scorer, on that same level. Then, of course, after that postseason, he had to get multiple shoulder procedures on both shoulders. So I do think we tend to forget how good he was, even if, of course, I mean, we can all kind of agree here. Tatum was a notch above.
Yeah, no, he definitely was. Shout out to Paul George. I think Paul George is.
It's unfortunate what happened.
Yeah, it's of course. Like if he never would have broke his leg, if he could have stayed. Indiana had some great teams. You know, when you had David West, you had Roy Hibbert, some of those guys. Those
nowhere near the level of the Celtics teams now, though.
It was an awesome team. I mean, they took the Heat to 7. You know, they really took the Heat, you know, down to the wire in some of those series. You think about it.
He took prime LeBron as 7.
So did Jayson Tatum as a rookie.
Well, prime LeBron with the worst roster he's had in his career.
What was that?
You talking about the Jayson Tatum?
The 2018 Cavs.
That team did suck.
That team was so bad.
I mean, Jayson Tatum was, you know, the best player at 19.
Paul George wasn't that much older at that point.
19?
No, he wasn't 19, but he was what, in his 3rd year?
Yeah,
he was in his third. Yeah,
because he played a year. He played 2 years of college, I believe.
You want to go through that Celtics roster?
It was better than that.
2018?
2018.
Yeah.
Terry Rozier, Al Horford,
and Terry Rozier in what round?
In the playoffs,
Smart.
round 1, Terry Rozier was a dog.
Marcus Morris was a solid.
And what about in that game 7?
Can't speak on that.
Marcus Morris was as solid as they come.
Marcus Morris, yeah, but like we act like it was year 2 Jaylen Brown. It was Al Horford who was
good. It was a cool team. It shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
it was
but
a cool
like
team. It was a cool
to
team.
take that, even though it wasn't a great Cavs team, it's LeBron who in 2018 it's fucking LeBron. It's the best player in the world. It's not even close.
Yeah, and Paul George took the best version of LeBron on the Heat with Dwayne Wade and Bosh to 7.
Yeah, that's a lot different than the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers supporting cast post Kyrie.
Yeah,
It's a
I mean,
ragtag
I
group
would.
of Rodney Hood, Jordan.
I think that
Rodney
Pacers
Hood and
team.
George Hill.
I think that Pacers team was better than that Celtics team personally.
Okay, that's a fair argument.
Yeah, I mean the Heat team obviously was better than this the Cavs team.
But it might not be that far off. It was George Hill, David West, Roy Hibbert.
Yeah, I mean it was
and then Lance
year 2
Stevenson.
Jaylen Brown. Terry Rozier didn't show up in Game 7. Al Horford who was good.
Really good.
Al Horford's still really good now.
He's good 7 years later.
No, of course, but I mean I think if you listed like the top
heels of him being a
top like
all-star
5 players combine those teams, I feel like the Pacers.
The biggest
probably have
misconception
3 out of the 5, 4 of the 5.
in the
The
history.
Celtics had 4 of the 5 best players in that series.
No, I'm saying if you compared the Pacers and
I get that. But
and
if you look at that 2018
Celtics.
series, Celtics, Cavaliers, it's LeBron 1, 2 and 3 are Tatum and Horford, 4 and 5 Jaylen Brown, and arguably you put one of those other Celtics
Jaylen Brown,
players.
year 2, Jaylen Brown.
He would be one of the 5 best players in that series.
That might have been.
Who on
Was
the
that
Cavs
year
is better
2 or
than
year
Jaylen?
3?
Who on the Cavs? That
Kevin Love
2018
was still hot.
Yeah.
All right, so you put Kevin Love
Kevin
there.
Love was still
fine.
hot.
But in that series, I feel like Jaylen Brown is just as good.
Jaylen Brown averaged, I think, like 17 in that playoff run. The
he was
biggest
solid.
No, that
misconception
Cavs
is
team
that
was dog
3 of the
shit.
5 best players.
Tatum
in that
averaged
match.
18 in that playoffs. It was great for a rookie campaign.
That's when the
don't get me
duo
wrong.
started, man.
But
Fact.
like that team was all around really good. It wasn't a carry job by any means to get to that point.
No, it was Tatum giving you 18 a night. Brown gave you 18. Rozier was good up until like that last game, but it was Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart, Aaron Baines, Greg Monroe, Shane Larkin, Semi
So not an
Ojeleye.
ECF
Brown
team, but
was
it's so
just-
the East.
Brown
So I
was-
get it.
It is
roughly as good as Tatum in that run.
Yeah, I mean they were similar.
kind of like the finals last year too.
Oh, you mean when Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP?
Oh,
Yeah,
and the
shout out.
ECF
Well deserved.
MVP.
Well deserved.
won
It's
everything,
kind of
huh?
like a
ECF
thing.
MVP. I would have given it to Tatum, but I'm not mad.
So we're gonna give a tribute to Gregg Popovich because his legendary coaching career ended after 20 seasons. He finishes as one of the leaders in wins all time for a head coach. 170 playoff wins with the Spurs is the most by any coach with one team. It's third all
Legend.
time, only behind Phil Jackson and Pat Riley. 3-time coach of the year. He coached 6 Hall of Famers: Duncan, Robinson, Parker, Ginobili, Dominique Wilkins, and Paul Gasol when he was in his later years, and a 5-time champion. Can you guys guess every year the Spurs won a championship with Gregg Popovich and the team they beat to win it?
99, they played
The Knicks.
the Knicks.
Correct.
01 was it?
2003.
It was not 01.
Oh
was
shit, it was
2003.
03.
03, who they beat?
Nets.
The Nets, absolutely.
7 is
2000.
Cavs.
Yes.
2005,
Pistons.
Yep.
2007,
Cavs.
and then 2014.
Heat.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all 5. And I think what's remarkable about his career is that from 97 to 2017, 20 seasons he coached, 13 50-win seasons, 6 60-win seasons, and in 98-99, which is part of the sample size, they went 37-13, which is a 75% win percentage. In a 20-year stretch, the worst you were going to get from Gregg Popovich was at least a 50-win season.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good of a coach he was. That's how good stability the Spurs had for that long. And it does feel like oftentimes the Spurs' dominance has been often overlooked in just how much they were able to accomplish and how they were able to sustain their greatness for a long duration of time.
Yeah, when you think of, for me, when I think of Spurs and I think of Tim Duncan, Gregg Popovich, I think for me, it reminds me of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, just in terms of from start to finish, dominance. They may not have won every year, but they were in the playoffs every
Deep
single
runs,
year. They had multiple deep runs. They were always, when you start the year, you had to worry about the Spurs. You had to talk about them being in contention to potentially make a WCF. You know, that was always their ceiling, you know, especially after that first ring. When Tim Duncan walked on the plane, like when he walked in San Antonio, when Gregg Popovich got there, it was up and running. Everything was going. Gregg Popovich is probably top 2, top 3 coach ever. For me, it's him or Phil Jackson. I think what Gregg Popovich built in San Antonio was kind of what everybody wants to build in terms of their foundation, the culture, just the type of, you know, the aura and the mantra that they have in San Antonio. It's a grade A organization, and it's because of Gregg Popovich. You know, what he's done in his 20 years, how he's kept the stability, how he's, you know, uplifted guys in that franchise, how he saved the multiple guys in the franchise, their careers, and how he's uplifted players and turned them into all-stars and stuff like that. How he's kept the same big three for the most part and has been able to compete in 2 to 3 different eras. How he's been just a complete nut job at what he does and still be able to find success. You know, and his coaching tree is ridiculous. Like his coaching tree, that's another thing. It's everybody. It's like everybody that's a coach damn near came from a pop tree. And that's kind of the same thing with Belichick in football. You know, everybody that's damn near coaching came from Belichick. And the same thing with Belichick, the same thing with Pop. There's not going to be another Pop. You know, there isn't going to be another him. He's built a defining legacy. He's probably one of the few coaches that deserve a statue. That's how good he has been. And for San Antonio, he's just as important as Tim Duncan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you even start with Gregg Popovich. I think a funny way to start off would be shout out Jokic Joestar. I did a tweet the other day, just came out on the show as well. And I think this is a funny way to kind of encapsulate what he was able to bring. He tanked one season in San Antonio, got the first overall pick, and won 50 games for the next 20 seasons. And you look at the Spurs and their franchise and everything that they built from the time they drafted Tim Duncan, of course, paired him up with Dale Robinson, to 2019, where they're nearly winning a final series years after Tim Duncan retired. To me, not Tim Duncan, but Gregg Popovich with Tim Duncan was able to build the model culture and the model system for stars and players to develop into. And I think one thing we overlook with their dynasty from 1999 to 2007, which continued to 2014, was that a lot of the players that he developed, like Tony Parker, was a 28th overall pick. Manu Ginobili, 57. You look at Derek White now in Boston, one of the last 3 picks of the draft, DeJounte Murray, Kellen Johnson. Years after Tim Duncan had retired, the Spurs continued to be the best team at finding, developing, and utilizing young talent. And then they were able to kind of parlay that into being a team that, even while being a smaller market, they weren't a marquee for agent destination. They stayed competitive years after. Kawhi Leonard wasn't a lottery pick, and he became a 2-time Finals MVP. And I feel like when you look at the modern era of the NBA, you think of the Western Conference. And in that conference, the Spurs were the most dominant team for 2 decades. And it wasn't just because of Tim Duncan. It was this kind of the relationship, the chemistry that he had with the coach who also served as the executive. And I feel like for San Antonio today, we looked at Victor Wembanyama, ironically coached by Gregg Popovich. I feel like when you think of the Spurs, you of course think of a statue that should be built for him, but also I think when you think of basketball, there's really no better face when it comes to kind of, Derek White had clipped this week talking about that Gregg Popovich saw something in me before I saw something in myself.
Shit, DeJounte Murray.
I think a lot of athletes today,
the league.
a lot of athletes today need that type of coach. And I think for the longest time in San Antonio, Gregg Popovich was that for countless star players.
Yeah, I think what Pop's done on the basketball court, I mean, there's basically no one in the NBA that can match what he did. But what made Pop special really was the relationships he was able to build with his players, right? Like, there's a reason why Tim Duncan's going back when he has, his I guess, I don't know if it's retirement, but it's kind of moving on, interview that he had a press whatever you want to call it a couple days ago. Whether it's Craig Sager on the sideline busting jokes with him, it's just been the relationships that he's been able to build, because it's probably the biggest difference between him and Bill Belichick, right? Players sour on Bill Belichick, like Tom Brady included. When you're with a guy for 20 years, I think it's normal to get fed up with them. But what Gregg was able to do, what Popovich was able to do, I feel like I can't call him Gregg. He's a Mr. Popovich. It feels like what he was able to do is he was able to just make light in a lot of these situations, right? He was able to joke with players. He was able to, on his team and on opposing teams, with sideline reporters and interviews. He always had a human side to him and a heartfelt side to him, which I think resonated with a lot of players. That's why, when you look across the board from old players like Duncan to newer players like DeJounte and Derek White, there's nothing bad that anyone ever has to say about Gregg Popovich. And when you usually have coaches that are this successful, there's something a little wrong with them, right? For better or worse, like you have to be a little bit sick in the head to be this good at your job for 2+ decades, because the long hours you put in, how much the game changes, how much you have to study. There's just a part of you that has to be mentally a little bit different than everybody. But Popovich was able to be that great of a head coach while also still having that interaction. Like he's just some guy that you'd be able to meet at a bar and be able to joke with. So, I'm excited to see what he could do in a different role. Obviously I hope his health continues to improve as time goes on, but the NBA is going to miss Pop in terms of being able to see him on the sidelines. And, I wish he could have gotten out a little bit more on his own terms, being able to finish out the season, maybe get a playoff berth, or we could have seen him one more time. But, God willing, he's able to do some successful things with San Antonio still.
Yeah, what I admire the most about Popovich is not just what he's done, but it's also, I think, two things really. I think standing up for what he believes in. I feel like he was always at the forefront of talking about important political issues that were current events, and he was never afraid to speak his mind. And number two, I think he's the perfect example of somebody continuing to do what they love until the wheels fall off. He didn't stop coaching until he absolutely couldn't.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality of it. And if he could, he would. And now he's moved into a president role where he's going to oversee things from a basketball operations standpoint. That's why he's called El Jefe. But he is somebody that put in so many years of his life, most of his adult life, into coaching, into pursuing a passion that he had. And he loved basketball so much and expanding the game and being a part of the game so much that he was a part of it for as long as he could until it was no more left to give.
Right. And I think the craziest part about it is just how hard it is to have sustained success in the NBA as a head coach. And Gregg Popovich made the playoffs for 22 straight years.
Insane.
And you can argue that it would have kept on going if Kawhi Leonard didn't sour on them. Mm-hmm. If Kawhi Leonard chose to continue to stay there, and you had LaMarcus Aldridge and Kawhi, you had Gasol. I mean, there was some years on the back end of the 2010s where the Spurs could have remained competitive had the relationship between the organization and Kawhi never went south. And they could have continued to compete for championships.
Right. And I feel like today you look at coaching, so much has changed in the coaching cycle. It seems like teams are a lot less patient with coaches today. Teams also have been paying coaches more. When you think of the Monty Williams contract, which was given about 2 years ago to the Pistons, it was reported, and that was not a common occurrence for coaching salaries to be reported. Shortly then after, Gregg Popovich's salary was reported to make sure that there was more of a baseline for coaches to get paid as well. Mm-hmm. I think he was a standard kind of breaker in that space to where he's making sure his colleagues are getting fairly compensated. And like you highlighted too, I think one thing that sticks with me as someone that's watched basketball since about 2010, give or take. When I was a kid, I watched the Spurs every year in the finals, and I kind of looked up to Pop. And a couple of years ago, to quote was, get over yourself a little bit. And that's something which I think kind of resonated with the entire kind of, when you think of Gregg Popovich and his presence, so much of it was him not taking himself too seriously and still being the very best at his profession. And I think that's something a lot of people can take away in other respects.
Shout out to Pop, man.
Now, to begin this podcast, we talked a lot about Tatum, talked about the Knicks and how much that win meant, the Game 1 victory. It's still sweet, but Game 2's tomorrow, and we'll be ready for that one. In this series, who will play better? Who will have a better series? Jayson Tatum or Jalen Brunson?
Mr. Dehls.
I think that's a tough question because I think both of them provide different things. I think Jalen Brunson is the go-to. Like, if you talk about offensively, if you're talking about as a scorer, I would go Brunson. But, like, Tatum does so much more than just score. Like, he's one of their best rebounders. He's one of their most versatile defenders. He's one of their best passers. You know, he's the guy that gets him into sets. Brunson, just due to size and what he is for that team, he isn't that for them. So, you know, what do we define as better is two different conversations. Who will be more impactful? I think that's also because both of them are just too different for their team. But if we're just talking the baseline, which is always scoring for who's a better, you know, whatever. Brunson, I think I'd go with Brunson. I think he's just been one of the most dynamic scorers in basketball. I think he's just a lot more fluid as a scorer than Jayson Tatum. He's a lot more, you know, patient. You know, he understands where his spots are. He understands how to get to them. He's very good at angles. He's very good at twitchy movement. You know, he has a lot more counters to his game. And he has an elite trait, which is the mid-range shooting, which is honestly the 2 feet in the paint. It's really damn near
3 levels.
Yeah, like it's the 3-level scoring. Because I don't want to say Brunson is, like, I think he's a great 3-point shooter. I think he's an elite 3-point shooter, but he's an elite paint finisher. He's an elite mid-range shooter. He's an elite post-up player for a guard. You know, he has the size, the physical frame. So I would say for that, like, I would go Brunson. But it's really like Tatum can give me 22. Like Brunson can give me 35. He can give me 35, 6 and 5. But Tatum can give me a smooth 22, 23, but like 15 rebounds, 9 assists. Like, he can give me a dominant effort on the defensive side that Brunson, just due to his size and stuff like that, he just can't give you.
A blind spot in NBA analysis is when we tend to determine who played the better series based off who was the better scorer, who was more efficient, who averaged more points. I do believe that Brunson's going to be the better scorer in the series. I believe that late in the fourth quarters, he'll be more consistent. And we've seen that in the Pistons series, we saw in the regular season, and we saw that last night too, up until the final play of the fourth quarter, where I felt pretty confident his floater was going to go in to win the game in regulation. But I do believe that you can be the worst scorer and still leave a larger mark in a specific series. And for Tatum, you could also make a case that in his game, the least consistent aspect is his scoring, because he's the best playmaker in his position, he's one of the very best defenders, and he's the best rebounder in his position. And that's the case for why many people think that he is a superstar today, because of all of the other things he brings while being a very good to elite level scorer. I do think Tatum will be the better player in the series, but who's going to be more productive as a scorer, I think that's going to have to go to Brunson. Last night, we fully saw that on display.
Yeah, and Brunson's going to have to. You know, like, Jayson Tatum does have Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Drew and Porzingis if he's not sick. They have a lot of other options compared to the Knicks, where Karl-Anthony Towns has the big moments down the stretch, where I think he only finished with 14, and we saw him struggle at moments.
Fucked him.
Yeah, we saw him struggle during the regular season against Boston. OG had a great night. Feels like OG is becoming a guy that you could really count on. Mikal Bridges, you know, is going to have some night just scoring the ball where, you know, his shots falling. Other night, like last night, even though he had some big buckets down the stretch, only finished with 8 points. So I think overall, Jalen Brunson's going to have a more efficient and better, you know, scoring series. But that's kind of who Brunson is. Like, I think Brunson is probably a better scorer than Jayson Tatum. He's been a more efficient scorer than Jayson Tatum. I think some of the stuff you mentioned is true, that Brunson the fact that Brunson's small is almost an advantage to him, because he needs to be so methodical with everything he does, right? Like, he needs to take the right angles. He needs to get over screens the right way. He needs to be able to break down a guy like Al Horford to create that little bit of space to hit a 3 over him. Jayson Tatum, when you're, you know, 6'8", 6'9", 230, you have the ability to just shoot over guys, and you have the ability to just run through guys, even though I felt like he never did that once last night. But the fact that you have more options since you are at that size, and just overall, I think he's probably just the more skilled physically player. You could get away with more stuff. While Brunson, on the other hand, has to be super, super detailed in all of the moves he gets. And that's when you see it. That's when you see the crazy footwork he gets. That's when you see him pump faking into fouls on a guy like Jaylen Brown, so he gets to the line, being able to make guys around the rim miss, even though he's a foot shorter than some of these dudes. So I think Brunson's going to be amazing this series. Like, you have Derek White and Drew and Jaylen Brown, who are some of the best defenders in the world, but Jalen Brunson has showed that it doesn't matter. You can have Asar Thompson on me, who I think we're going to agree is like a top 10 perimeter defender.
Played well defensively
at worst, who I agree. I think had a good defensive series against him. But it's Jalen Brunson, and he's one of the best scorers in the NBA, even at his size, that, you know, barely 6 foot. So I think Brunson's going to have a hell of a series. If they want to be truly, truly competitive, it's going to have to be nights like last night, where even though he struggled, you know, I think up until that third quarter, he only had maybe 9 or 10 points. And then fourth quarter and overtime, all of a sudden, Jalen Brunson, clutch player of the year, really came alive. So wouldn't surprise me if he averages 30 plus in the series. He averages 35 in the series because that's the type of scorer he is. That's the type of player he is. That's also what the Knicks need from him. He needs him to go out there and kill every single night. You need him to be the leading scorer, not just on the team, but probably for the game, right? Like, I don't think there's going to be many games this year where if Tatum or Brown or whoever outscores Brunson, I have a hard time seeing that Knicks are going to be able to win that series, barring 10 3-pointers made from Cat type of night. So I think Brunson's going to be great. But you guys mentioned, Tatum is able to impact the games in a lot of other ways, and just having such a great team, he doesn't need to have a 10 out of 10 series, right? Like we talked about that last year where going up against the Mavericks, I was like, I think if Tatum plays a 7 out of 10, they'll be able to win, and people think he played a 4 out of 10. People think, played 8 out of 10, whatever the case might be. But Boston's team is so good. It's so deep to get up so many 3-pointers where they just have an average shooting night. Like if they would have shot 31% instead of 25 last night, the outcome might have been different. But he just has more leeway as the player he is, just being physically gifted, and the team around him as well.
There's something to be said about somebody who can impact the game outside of scoring. And there's no doubt about it that Jayson Tatum does do it. But I can argue that he also can diminish his performance with poor shooting nights, especially in the fourth quarter when his team needs him the most and he doesn't show up. I think when you don't show up in those biggest moments when your team needs you the most, even if you do all those things at an A+ level, if you're not showing up in the moments where your team needs you to show up the most, you can still outplay that guy that's maybe providing great defense, great rebounding. And I look at the playoffs over the last 3 years with Jayson Tatum and Jalen Brunson. Jayson Tatum is averaging in his last 31 playoff games in the last 3 seasons, Tatum's averaging 26.5, 10.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists with 2.8 turnovers, 56.8% true shooting, and Brunson is averaging 30.5 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 6.9 assists per game, to 2.5 turnovers, a 55.5% true shooting percentage. Jalen Brunson, number one, 31 playoff games with the Knicks. For him to average 30.5 points per game is remarkable. I think he's one of the best playoff risers that we've seen at his position, and he's one of the most skilled players at his size in the history of the league. That's number one. But I look at the fourth quarter points, and this is over the last 3 years, and mind you, Tatum has played in far more fourth quarters because he's played in almost 15 more playoff games over the last 3 years. Jalen Brunson has 272 fourth quarter points on 47, 40, 82 splits, while Tatum has 257 fourth quarter points. So less fourth quarter points in 15 more games played than Brunson on 38, 24, and 89 splits. Jayson Tatum over the last 3 years in the playoffs in totality has been awful as a scorer in the fourth quarter with his efficiency. And that's where I think Jalen Brunson has the edge. The Knicks can lose this series, but I think we're going to walk away from this series and we're going to say Jalen Brunson looked like a better player for most of it and made more of an impact for his team. But Tatum has the better team, and those things can outweigh that. But I think Jalen Brunson, based on his performance over the last 3 years in the playoffs, he at least is going to match what Tatum's going to do impact-wise.
Are you just putting him over Tatum?
I don't think he's over Tatum. I think he's a better player, but I think impact-wise, over the last 3 years, I named you the numbers per PER, 22 PER for Brunson, 21 PER for Tatum.
But those sound like scoring numbers to me.
But playmaking-wise, he has a better assist-to-turnover ratio as well, and he's more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
especially in the fourth quarter.
That doesn't tell me about playmaking, though. That just it doesn't. Like, I get those numbers. Like, those numbers make sense. I'm not trying to diminish them, but that doesn't tell me the entire story of what they both bring on. Some of the numbers that you just can't fizzle out, like the defensive effort, the defensive versatility, switching out on defense. Like like Brunson, one of his best traits is being able to take charges. I think that is also a trait on defense that gets understated. Yeah, he does a very good, especially with his side. He knows how to position himself for that. I think Jayson Tatum, the way he can defend big men, the way he's able to position himself, the way he has that type of strength. Like there's certain things that I get it. Like the scoring, the impact thing is tough. It really is tough because I think both of you said some good points. I think, Dehls, you mentioned it. Tatum doesn't have to score 35, 40 points all the time. And then you mentioned sometimes the scoring can outweigh what you do from a versatile standpoint if you're just that fucking good at it. And it's tough to measure it because, like you mentioned, Brunson, I think we all can agree, outplayed, Tatum last night. But it was a point where Brunson was doing his thing, but they were down 20. So it was like, if we go about the series hypothetically and the Celtics win the series out 4 straight games or whatever it is, and they're not blowouts, but they're, the Celtics are comfortable in, but Brunson's having 35 and 40. Yeah, he may have outplayed him, but how much does the impact truly look like? That also comes with the Boston having a superior team and stuff like that. So it's tough. It's really a tough situation because I feel like to gauge what Tatum does, it's also a gift and a curse with his team because he doesn't have to do everything because his team is so good, but there is moments where he can do everything because you can see the ability and he can show you that, like, dude, this dude can do it. But, like, he's also not in similar situations to his other counterparts that show you, dude, I'm a 35-point per game scorer. I have to do this.
Well, I'll speak to the playmaking thing. I think Brunson is one of the most blitz players in the league.
Yeah.
So I think he's had to make quick decisions. And over the last 3 years, Jalen Brunson's impact on both ends of the floor, when you combine both of them, I think have been elite overall. I look at his first playoffs with the Knicks against the Heat in the second round. He averaged 31.
Yeah, he's
the only player in that series to really play well to give us a chance. Last year, we got injured against Indiana. That's what happened. Everybody got hurt. Whether it was Randall didn't play at all. Hartenstein got hurt. OG Anunoby got hurt. We had injuries. There was no way we can compete with a fully loaded Pacers team with all the injuries. And then Brunson got injured in the first half of Game 7. So I look at that, and I don't look at his defense, even though Tatum's defense is much better. I don't look at Brunson's defense and any of the playoff series that we've lost in being a big detriment to where it was a big reason why we lost. I look at it as, I feel like it's been a net neutral. It's not impactful like Tatum's, but it's been a net neutral. And then when I look at the fourth quarters, over the last 3 playoffs, he's top 3 in fourth quarter points. I mean, he shows up in the biggest moments, and if we dumb it down to the last 2 playoffs, he's averaging the most points in the fourth quarter, given his sample size. What we're seeing right now in these playoffs, he has 30 more points, basically, because it's 29 actually, so basically 30 more points than second place in fourth quarter points. He's shown up in every single fourth quarter in the first round, and then so far against the Celtics in Game 1. And you're right. Listen, defensive rebound is very impactful, but in the fourth quarter, if you're coming up away as the best fourth quarter player, that's usually the guy that's going to get the nod as you played the best.
Yeah. I also think, like, the way the Knicks' offensive system is, they run everything through him. So he has to be that, and he's been amazing at that. So it's really tough. Like, as you mentioned it, Brunson isn't a negative, I don't think. Like, he's a negative by height, I guess, per se, but he's not a negative. Like, he's like a neutral on defense. But when you're a neutral on defense, super high-powered on offense, and then you're going up against a guy who's kind of a really positive defender, plus he's pretty positive on offense, it's always going to be a 50-50 thing, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to judge, like, who's going to be more impactful. I think Brunson is going to continue to show up in the fourth quarter because he's been doing that all year long. I mean, we could put his numbers up against everybody in the NBA, whether you want to do Jokic, Giannis, Luke, it doesn't matter who it is. His number is going to be just as good, if not better, than everybody when it comes to those moments. I feel like he's just such a good, tough shot maker, as well as outsmarting the defense as well, right? Whether that's being able to change his speed, again, getting guys up in the air and pump fakes. His footwork is insane. He's a really good post player for his size. He just does all those little things good on offense that get overlooked from guys that are so much bigger than him. So I think Brunson's awesome, man. I love Jalen Brunson. I thought he was phenomenal last night. Like, as much as obviously I'm rooting for the Celtics and I'm sick that they lost, like, when he hits that 3 in the fourth quarter to make a 6-point lead over Al Horford, I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, is this guy ever going to miss? Like, that's what I was feeling in the moment, because he just felt unstoppable at one point. Even when that teardrop, on the left side went in and out, I was like, damn, like, we just got away with murder there, because it felt like everything was going in. So, yeah, Brunson's awesome, man. I think over the last couple of years, it's probably been maybe a bit overlooked just because the Knicks have, I don't want to say come up short, because I think it's kind of what's been expected maybe outside of last year against Indiana. But since he doesn't have like that super deep run yet where he goes to the ECF or eventually goes to the finals, he's probably just going to get overlooked. But, Joel, you laid out the numbers. This is one of the best clutch players, one of the best fourth quarter players, one of the best scorers that we have in the NBA. And this is going up against Drew Holiday and Derek White and Jaylen Brown, right? He's not going up against, some scrubs on defense. So Brunson's awesome.
I think the player that we really need to talk about is OG Anunoby, though. Because when the Knicks gave him a 5-year, $212 million contract in the offseason, basically the entire NBA agreed that this was an overpay and a poor deal by New York. When last year, when they brought him in, their first 20 games, they won 17-3. Practically could not lose last season with him on the floor before making these other all-season additions. This year, he averages a career high, and the postseason is averaging 19 points per game, while being a 39% three-point shooter on volume, averaging 3.5 stocks, and he's doing this while guarding the the best wing duo in the entire NBA. And it's no surprise that last night, Jaylen Brown was 1 of 10 from three-point range, one of his worst shooting performances in his playoff career. And the fourth quarter, the two of them go 1 of 10 combined from the field. I feel like OG Anunoby's praises should be sung a lot more because of how much he was kind of disrespecting the offseason. He's been healthy this year, he's been doing more as a scorer, and he still maintained that level of elite defensive play on the perimeter.
What is that, $46 million?
It's not bad.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. I
One
do
of the best
think
perimeter
that
defenders in the world. He's giving you damn near 20 a night.
the last
Still
two
might
games
be a slight overpay.
against Tatum, he's played great defense against Tatum. He's made it very tough.
Yeah, I want to see Boston attack Brunson and Cat more. I feel like in the regular season we saw
you can attack me, but don't take step back jumpers.
No, absolutely. That's what I was about to say. In the regular season, we saw Tatum. Of course, OG's gonna be guarding him off for it, but getting Brunson switch on to Jayson Tatum. Then from there, whoever Cat's guarding, bring him into the pick and roll. You got Brunson and Cat, and that's how they were able to generate so much great offense in the regular season. And I feel like they never really got to it. I think, of course, New York did a really good job of when they did switch, they weren't really able, or Boston wasn't able to take advantage of those mismatches because, again, some of the shot selection, it was just, yeah, Tatum, if you want to take a 37-foot three-pointer, go ahead. We're going to take that over you driving downhill. So, yeah, I think there's going to be adjustments made on both sides, but I need to see Boston, specifically Tatum, really take advantage. I'm a bit worried about Brown, too, man, just with his knee. I feel like the explosiveness isn't quite there. When he was going downhill, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like he was flopping every damn time.
He would stop and take a pull-up.
He was screaming this was not the same Jaylen Brown we saw last year, even in the regular season where he's able to take off, dunk, really be explosive. Defensive side too. I thought he wasn't as locked in as we've seen in especially last postseason where he looked like one of the best defenders in the world at the moment. So
and Porzingis is questionable game too.
Probable, I saw.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
Yeah, the illness shit is weird, man. Because Porzingis comes out of halftime, he's skipping, he's going up and down, he looks fine, and then the halftime's over and he's not on the bench. He of course dealt with an illness back in February, March, where he missed 8 or 9 games in a row. He damn near missed a month this season with some mystery illness that we never really got a ton from.
I think this is how they caught Magic.
And it seems like something similar. Who knows? Hauser is probably going to be out, though. Hauser rolled his ankle.
It's unfortunate. It really is. I like Hauser. I do.
He didn't play at all in the first half. It was some odd sub patterns. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping the Knicks get some breaks, some lucky breaks. We could use them.
Hauser's out. That's a break.
That doesn't really matter all that much. Who comes in? Baylor Shireman now? I mean,
they might just run a 7-man rotation. I don't know.
We saw the first game of all the second round matchups outside of Minnesota Warriors, because it hasn't happened yet at the time of this recording. They all lost their first game. Which one of these favorites in the second round are you most worried about? I want to start with you, Riv, because I got John and Dell's answer last night on the stream. I want to start with you. Out of all these teams, is it Cleveland, who's dealing with energy problems? Is it the Celtics? Is it the Timberwolves, who are heavy favorites? Or is it OKC, who just lost game 1 at home, and you saw J-Dub shoot 5 for 20 and Chet missed 2 free throws in the clutch and choke? Is it OKC that you're a bit worried about?
Well, it's got to be the team that's injured. I don't think it would. Listen, you lose game 1. It's not the biggest deal in the world, as long as you bounce back game 2. OKC, Denver, that's not an easy matchup. And honestly, I feel like OKC lost that game more than Denver really won that game, especially late down. It was weird to me. You have a statistically a historic defense. Why not trust them? And then just some real poor, transition defense, allowing Aaron Gordon to hit that 3. Aaron Gordon was also fucking amazing that day.
He's been awesome.
What did you say to me last time we were recording? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know, but I remember, I'm glad somebody reminded me that you actually switched your pick and picked the Clippers instead of Denver, so I take my apology back.
That didn't happen.
No, it did. And I take my
When he do
apology
that?
back. It was like after like game 2 or game
John,
3.
is this
after
fake news?
it was,
Number one's fake news.
It might have been a fan told me. I'm running with it though.
And number two, I said when
tells
Michael
me.
Porter Jr., Russell Westbrook.
Here we
and
go. Here we go.
Russ and
Like
PJ.
I
I
was
said when they
saying,
got
though.
hurt, I said they're cooked.
Yes.
And then they won the next
There
game.
we go. Like I was saying though. Cleveland.
John,
It's got to be
John.
Cleveland.
I never changed my pick. I
Darius.
said they're fucked because they got hurt.
Darius.
That's the same thing as the Cavs. That's
No,
no different. than
listen,
before.
Darius Garland down, Mobley down, DeAndre Hunter down. Hunter and Mobley got hurt in the same game. Really, truly unfortunate voodoo stuff going on. Darius Garland been dealing with that injury for about a week and some change now.
Yeah, almost 2 weeks.
Like at least with OKC, you have your guys, so you'll be ready. At least with Denver, for the most part, you have your guys. At least with Boston, well, as of right now, we're just finding out. We don't know what's up with their guys, but at least with Minnesota, Golden State, you're warming up with your guys. With Cleveland, you don't know who's going to play. And then when Darius Garland does come back, he hasn't played basketball in like 2 weeks. So he's coming into playoff basketball. They kind of need him to be at that all-star level.
Tough series, too. This is a team that's going
this
running
is
up
constant.
and down.
So for me, it's Cleveland because it really does suck because you win 60 games. You have a relatively healthy first round outside of those last 2 games, and you felt like this could be the year for you, and now you're dealing with all these shit ton injuries. D. Mitch is probably going to play 44 minutes. Who knows if game 3 we get a new notification? Oh man, D. Mitch dealing with a foot
Don't
injury.
say that, man.
Yeah, like
not
it's
only that,
unfortunate.
but Cleveland, they played their starters 30 minutes most a game this year.
Last night, or excuse me, game 1, Mitchell played like 34 minutes.
Yeah, they go through their rotation.
Yeah, they don't play all that many minutes, so they shouldn't have that much load on their body. But injuries, it's just an unlucky thing, and that's what happens sometimes. Cleveland is an easy cop-out because of all the injuries. Game 2, they're up right now. Let's see if they pull out the win. It would be huge for them to be tied 1-1 with all the injuries. OKC, there's just something about them with the inexperience outside of SGA and the two co-stars next to SGA that is still a wait and see for me. I said it back in the regular season. This team should win the finals. This team got everything on paper that they should win the finals. They're clearly the best team. But there is something to be said about a playoff atmosphere, you feeling pressure, and you playing worse. The Nuggets have a rebounding advantage. They don't foul, and we know OKC like to generate a lot of contact and like to draw those fouls. And the Nuggets just have an added sense of resiliency now. We knew this was the team they were years ago. Like the Nuggets have the most playoff wins when trailing by 14 plus points in the second half.
You really disrespected
over
D. Mitch.
the last 7 years with 8 such games. We'll get to that later.
He's so fucking disrespectful.
We'll get to that later.
It's fucking backpacking
When
now.
trailing by 14 plus points in the second half last 7 years with 8 such games. Since Jokic has been there, they've been a team that's been able to crush double-digit deficits that other teams have had. This is the first team in NBA history to beat a 65-plus win playoff team in the playoffs, despite having a rest disadvantage, because this was a quick turnaround coming off of that Clippers series, and they don't have that same old factor that the Warriors have, where I feel like they're gassed and they look a little bit too old and unathletic. I think Denver has more than enough athletes, and their role players are really contributing. And although OKC didn't shoot that well, and I thought their decision-making late in this game was very questionable, there's also an X factor with Denver if you're going to get something from Michael Porter Jr. Like, if that's going to happen, a Jamal Murray blow-up game is always possible. So I don't think Denver also gave their best punch either. It's just with OKC, I said it back then, and I didn't disagree with you when you said that Jalen Williams was your stock down player, because I don't think Jalen Williams took the necessary leap offensively that we all expected him to take. And in the playoffs, much like last year, he had a really good first round against a team that doesn't belong in their league. And then in the second round, he disappointed against Dallas. And now, right now, first game, he shoots 5 for 20. And what I don't like is that in the post-game press conference, he's playing around with his Gatorade and drinking it in a weird way and acting like everything is a joke and trying to recreate Torian Prince's rebounding clip. He was clip farming after they blew a lead and choked. And to me, it just...
SGA is your leader, man. That's what happens.
It just seems like you're not taking it seriously. You're probably just thinking it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And maybe that's just a fan in me that I think it's the playoffs. This is a big deal. This is important. I just think J-Dub, it doesn't really feel like he's all the way understanding of how big of a moment the playoffs are, and that worries me.
How big his role is too as number 2 creator. I felt like last night in this discussion, of course, I mean, it comes down to injuries in the postseason. That's honestly the most
Can I ask you a
important.
question, John? I don't want to ever take nothing from a fan again. Who did you pick, OKC or Denver?
OKC, I took Oklahoma City in 6 games.
6?
Yeah.
You took OKC too?
After
I
last
wasn't making a
night,
prediction,
I
but I
feel a lot more open to this being a 7-game series, though.
John.
Hey, John, in a game
John.
7, who you want?
Who you want?
Who you want in game 7,
Nikola
man?
Jokic. We were on the stream. They asked me what my final thoughts on Nuggets in 7. And I think, honestly, in the playoffs, injuries will always be the most important thing. It's why the Cavaliers series, to me, went from being Cavs in 6 to it's a 50-50 split, a toss-up. If Evan Mobley's not healthy and an All-NBA player in Darius Garland is still dealing with swelling in his big toe. And that's why with the Nuggets, I see Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Russell Westbrook. I'm saying to myself, that's half your rotation. That's your 2nd, 4th, and 5th best players all down. I'm like, they're fucked. And then the next game, Russell Westbrook comes back after missing one, and then I start to see the light. I would say the Cavaliers are the biggest favorite that I'm concerned about. They're up by about 10 points right now.
17.
17's even better. It'd be nice if my stream could load so I could
Have
see
you looked
that.
at D. Mitch's numbers?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of D. Mitch.
Go ahead, John. Continue. I want to hear what you have to say.
Thanks. So, I was trying to get back to the
OKC talk.
Oklahoma City that you're talking about, and I felt that last night they really seemed to kind of frizzle and tense up in that last 5 minutes or so. It was a 6-point game about 3 minutes. The Nuggets are playing the foul game. At one point, they take Jokic out to continue fouling, and I felt like the challenge Mark Dagnall was really bad when Shea was vehemently telling him do not challenge this. He wastes that. The back-to-back missed 3 throws. But even if Chet makes both, it'd be a 3-point game. The Nuggets could tie it, but you would have went to overtime.
You got to make those.
You would have went to overtime, though. And I felt like at the end, the Nuggets made enough veteran plays. Russell Westbrook making the decision to kick out to Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon hitting his 3 throws. You have Christian Brown making a lot of plays. And then I think the unsung hero for Denver, it's Peyton Watson. Even when he's only going 1 of 5 from the field, his energy and his pace, the athleticism that he provides, it's impactful in those 15 to 20 minutes. And I think the biggest difference in this series is the fact that Russell Westbrook's replacing the role that Bruce Brown filled 2 years ago.
Shooting like 42% in the
he's
corner.
Shooting, even when he's not hitting, it's always online, and I hope that continues. But his off-ball play, his on-ball defense, his offensive rebounding, I think him, AG, and Jokic just had 6, 5, and 3 respectively. That is what gives them a chance in the series because the Thunder really only have one strong rebounder positionally. That's Isaiah Hartenstein. He's averaging about 8.7 in this postseason. And that's what gives Nuggets kind of that same odds and that same chance of leaving a mark like the Rockets in that Warriors series. I do think the turnovers that we saw Denver commit, 18, that could be something that continues because you have the best perimeter defense I've ever seen. And I really don't think that's hyperbole. When you're watching Case and Wallace, we talked about that in the stream, Case and Wallace is playing Jamal Murray from basically 90 feet. You have Peyton Watson set a screen, and then it's Shea in his grill on the ball with Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso, and Chet Holmgren in help. And oh, by the way, we've got 2 elite defenders on the bench right now. I think that is the challenge for Denver. But luckily, they have Nikola Jokic. And the physicality, the leadership, and the presence of his supporting cast, I think that gives Denver a much better chance than I thought coming to this series.
I don't want to say this before you go, that they have nothing for the Joker. Like
No,
Zubac is a complete difference from Hartenstein and Chet.
They did. They had 4 guys in the game.
But that still didn't work. Like the Joker is
had 40 and
bullying.
20.
Yo, he was bullying. Like Zubac, shout out to him because he did. He as
oh my
good as
God.
a job I've seen anybody. Like AD has struggled, Bam has struggled. Them two.
Bless you.
Zubac was putting his ass in a box. These dudes right here, the Joker probably like, oh shit, like this is food every single time. Like miss, I got my own rebound, bucket, like post up, 2 men, like he's doing whatever he wants.
And you know what I was thinking of last night after they won the game? I kind of had this thought to myself that the 2023 finals run, they didn't beat a 50-win team in that playoff run. And it's the run that people like say, oh, well, Jokic didn't play a team that was that great or elite in that run.
They only swept the Lakers, LeBron, AD in that run, and
The 7-seed Lakers?
They dog walked the Heat, who were the team that beat the Celtics in the finals.
And then
seed.
the thought I had was like,
Mickey Mouse
imagine if 2025, not saying it's going to happen, but imagine if 2025 is the opposite. You beat a Clippers team that won 50 games.
Good
You
Clippers
beat
team.
a 65 win plus OKC team. You beat a 50-win team in the conference finals, and you beat a team in the NBA finals that was also an elite level team. Like, what if
You're not beating
Jokic
the
just
Cavs,
goes
brother.
on an all-time run? And I just feel like whenever you have an all-time player like Jokic, you can't ever completely rule out that possibility of it happening.
Damn.
But yeah, like OKC, this is the last thing I'll say, and then you could go Dehls about whoever your pick is. But I feel like oftentimes people always say, "Oh man, I don't care that they're young. I don't care if they don't have experience. That's just lazy analysis. That's just stupid." Like, not really. I think it does matter, and we have to remember that OKC, they're not just young; they're like outlierish young.
Caruso's oldest dude on the team is like 30.
This was the youngest team in history, back-to-back seasons, to be first in the Western Conference. This isn't just like a 27-year-old group that they're not old, they're kind of in the middle. No,
Like the
this
Cavs,
yes,
basically.
this is a really fucking young
They're
team.
a lot younger,
This
too.
this is a team that this is J-Dub's second playoff appearance. This is Chet's second playoff appearance. Last year was their first playoff appearance. This isn't just a team that they're a little inexperienced. No. They are green. They are like diapers fresh. That's how fresh they are in terms of a playoff atmosphere. Even a player as great as SJ, who's going to be MVP this year, this is his third playoffs. This is his what? 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth playoff series? SGA has played in less than 50 playoff games in his career. Like, this is not just a team that is, oh, you can overlook the young aspect of it. No, because you look at every team that's won a championship or that has been young and has made the leap. Golden State went out and they signed Andre Iguodala for a reason. They signed him for a veteran presence in the locker room.
Bogan on that
Exactly. They signed players to have more of a veteran leadership on their team. And I think I like to listen to what players say sometimes about how they feel about teams. I think Draymond, for the most part, even though he can say some out of whack stuff, he is very honest about what he says. And earlier in the season, what stuck with me is when he really said that nobody's scared of OKC. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like that's the sentiment across the league amongst the top West teams. Like, I think
We beat them 3 times.
they're very well aware of how great
sleep
OKC
on
are,
them.
but I don't think Denver is like fearful at all of OKC. And that's where I think there is
Boston might be.
Boston against OKC. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
You
they
saw the
lost twice
matchups.
against
We
them.
got to get there first. Shit, we
But
got to get there first.
I look at OKC and I say there are definitely some schematic issues that they're dealing with, but when you have players that are regressing in the playoff atmosphere, like last year, where everybody shot poorly, Kaysen, Isaiah Joe, you name it, they all didn't play well against Dallas. That, I think, is like more of an inexperienced thing, not ready for the moment. And if it happens again, it'll be the same thing. Like, yeah, there are some schematic stuff in there that you can point to, but for the most part, like, this team we've never seen a team this young in the playoffs have expectations to go to the finals and win it all like this early.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason why we thought that is just how great the regular season they had, right? You have an historic regular season where you have an MVP, you have probably the deepest team in the NBA, you have an historic defensive rating, you have a coach that everyone looks at as a top 3 to 4 coach in the NBA. So they have everything on paper that you would think a championship team needs to go and succeed, including making a trade in the offseason for a guy like Alex Caruso, who's been in some big games throughout his career. But when you do break it down amongst the most important players on this team, it does get a little bit different, because as great as Shea has been, he has not been to the conference finals. He hasn't been to the finals, right? He hasn't really had that moment yet in his playoff career where you could point at being like, that's something where he could go back and learn from, even though you can make the argument last year losing, but it's not like Shea played bad, right? Shea was awesome in the second round. It was more so the supporting cast around him. And that's the more concerning part. Is I think we all know Shea's going to be great. He was great last night, right? It's really just J-Dub and Chet, because those are the two guys under the biggest microscope going into these playoffs and even going into this regular season, because last season in the playoffs, they did struggle, and they did struggle to shoot, both of those guys, from 3. Then your first game in the second round of these playoffs, you go 5 for 20 if you're J-Dub. It's going to be, we're going to look at it a little bit more closer than I think we would have if they won the game. Even if the Nuggets made the comeback and say Aaron Gordon just misses that shot, you're going to look at Mark Daigneault and say, why'd you call or why are you fouling then? Why'd you call a timeout there when you could have saved it for later? And why'd you let Jokic get back into the game in those little moments? So I do think Denver has shown, especially in the regular season, I think you brought this up on the live stream last night, that when they've played, Denver's been able to get good offense against the Thunder. As great a historic defense they have been, the Thunder were one of the couple teams throughout the year that you could point at against OKC and like this was a tough match for them, right? Jokic is going to go out there and be able to maybe not get 40-20 every night, but going up against Hartenstein and going up against Chet Holmgren, neither of those guys are going to be able to contain him, right? Zubac is really the only guy we've been seeing recently that's been able to somewhat limit the Joker for what he's done against, like you mentioned, with Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis, some of the guys we think are the best defenders in the world. So I definitely took a close look at the series after last night's game because I felt like the Thunder had been so dominant this year that even with their, quote unquote struggles against the Denver Nuggets this year, that they've been so talented that they'd be able to overcome it. But Jokic showed like, listen, Shea, you might be MVP. You're not the best player in the world. Like, this is still my league. This is still my title. I'm going to be able to outperform you multiple times in this series. Even when you have a game where you drop 33 points, I'm still going to be clearly the best player on the court for how great Shea is. So I do think the Cavs with their injuries, you probably have to lean that from being concerned. But number two would be the Thunder, just because of some of the things you guys are mentioning, right? The inexperience from not just the players, but coaching staff as well, and how great Nikola Jokic is, right? Like, I think Jalen Brunson is great. He ain't Nikola Jokic. I think Tyrese Haliburton is great. He ain't Nikola Jokic. So, like, just having that presence of having the best player in the world and all of the attention that he draws, where Aaron Gordon is going to get open looks, Jamal Murray is going to get open looks, Bruce Brown, all of these guys are going to be able to get open looks because of the gravity that he has, compared to a guy like Jalen Brunson or Haliburton, where I know the Celtics were throwing some doubles late in the fourth quarter and overtime, but for the majority of the game, like, if you want to go one-on-one against Jrue Holiday, okay. If you want to switch against Al Horford, shit, you've been hitting shots, but like, okay, like, we're going to kind of allow that. For Jokic, it's the opposite. You're not going to be able to go one-on-one against Chet because he's just going to get destroyed. You're not going to be able to go against one-on-one with Hartenstein. So it's a bit concerning. I'm not overreacting yet. I'm still taking the Thunder, but game 2 becomes a must-win now.
I feel like the tricky and the interesting thing about Oklahoma City is that the last 3 years in the regular season, they've exceeded the expectations that everybody set for them. But then in the playoffs, they've gotten to such a high point, and they set an expectation so high to the point that we could be on this stage saying that the youngest team in the NBA has championship or bust expectations.
Yeah.
And that is a heavy weight to wear for a team that you look at their roster, and we understand what their strengths are, but it doesn't feel like they have a physical enforcer the way the Warriors do with Draymond Green. Or a better example would be the Nuggets with Aaron Gordon, who can wear teams down physically and just control the game possession after possession, even if you are outmatched from a skill perspective. Because with the Nuggets, it's not just Aaron Gordon. It's the duality of him and Aaron Gordon just wearing you down repeatedly on the glass inside 5 feet. The Nuggets started 4 of 21 yesterday from three-point land. And the Thunder still had 4 feet in the paint with 4 different players at all times. They still could not contain the defensive glass. And I felt like you look at the Warriors, another example is Steph Curry wears you down from how much he moves. And then there's Draymond Green, who's just a pain in the fucking ass. And before injury, you have the winning version of Draymond and Jimmy Butler. I feel like with these veteran-laden teams that have clear physical outliers supporting their star, it gives them a kind of an edge, even when they're not necessarily the more talented team. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in last night's game, you felt that with Oklahoma City. You felt Chet Holmgren being put into foul trouble. He had some possessions where he was using his length to disrupt Jokic, but then Russell Westbrook and Aaron Gordon are saying, I'm going to barrel right through your chest, and I'm going to get in one, whether or not they call it. And I think that's what gives Denver a chance in this series.
Yeah, like you just think about it with OKC. It's just everything they're facing is a first time for them. Throughout a playoff series, like if they make the conference finals, it's going to be their first conference finals. It's going to be their first NBA finals. They haven't been to any Game 7 yet. It'll be their first Game 7. These are just new situations for them that I don't think they faced that same sense of adversity in the regular season, especially from a close game perspective. In the playoffs, you're in a lot of close games, and OKC is usually blowing teams out.
Yeah.
So, you're in these situations against other great teams who know how to manage possessions by possessions, and this kind of like new to you. This is your first time there, so they have the talent to overcome it. But it's also something that you can't overlook and just say, oh, you know what? All the numbers point to them being able to do this at a really high level, and the inexperience isn't going to play a factor at all, because I think we saw last year with Dallas, and then game 1 now, inexperience is playing a little bit of a factor with them. And I mean, just the scared factor I mentioned with Draymond Green. I mean, just look at how John Morant spoke about them after they lost. They got swept. They got cooked. Like they didn't stand a chance. And John Morant still was like, we kind of figured them out after game 2.
Well, I expect John to say that.
I mean,
John
to be fair, if he
will forever say that.
doesn't get hurt after their 1,000,000-point loss in game whatever it was on Easter,
They
could have
might
tied
win
that
game
series at
3.
2-2. They could have tied that series 2 apiece.
Yeah. They probably win both of those.
You know, like John Morant didn't come out and say, you know, I got ultimate respect for OKC stuff. He said, you know what, I kind of feel like we figured them out after game 2.
He was in there and he was like, let me think about what I'm gonna say, because I know my people.
And he
twist
thought
my
about it.
words.
And he was like, honestly, OKC, yeah, I just kind of feel like we figured them out after game 2.
I mean, listen, he was in the game. They was up 30. Could have been up 40. Then they went down to the wire.
Does not hurt to do not lose.
They went down to the wire with Scottie Pippen Jr. Next game.
Scottie nearly beat them in game 4.
Yeah,
With
so
Sharon going
it would have been. It's 2-2 going back to OKC. So, listen, OKC just gotta get right. You know, I think it comes with the territory of. Because I even remember when Golden State was on the scene, you know, when they jumped on the scene, it felt like they had more fear because it's just the Steph factor and the Draymond factor.
And the
Klay
3-point
Thompson.
shooting, it was just very new.
Yeah, the 3-point variance was ridiculous. Steve Kerr was a lot more, like, it was just different. So they just got to get that groove back, man.
And there were still teams that doubted Golden State back then. Charles Barkley being one of them. He doubted the 3-point shooting variance. But at the same time, like, you played Golden State and you kind of felt like, okay, even if you're up 10, they can come back at any point. Like, there was still like a certain fear factor with them that I don't feel like right now currently exists for OKC, but it's just game 1, so we'll see how they manage the rest of the series. Before we get on to the next topic, you can say whatever you want to say.
I just find it funny how you were like, speak on Donovan Mitchell, brother.
He's great.
He's playing amazing.
What was he saying in the group chat?
Oh, took 50 shots. Oh, he's inefficient. He's a shot chucker. A bunch of nonsense.
Those shots went to Sam Merrill.
33 points, 13 for 23.
Not bad.
Most of those
That's
are
better.
missed threes.
That's
like,
better.
It's really his 3-ball. It just hasn't been falling. That's really
No, I
unfortunate.
told you that
7 assists.
50 of their 99 shots came from Ty Jerome and Donovan Mitchell.
No Garland. No Mobley.
I was gonna say respectfully, who'd you want to shoot last game other than?
I'm
Well,
sure he
Mobley
wants
was-
Mobley
Sam.
for
Mobley
sure,
was in the
but-
game.
Yeah.
He was 9 for 13.
I mean,
I mean,
13
they-
shots for Mobley's.
I'm sure he wants Sam
What do you want,
Mural
6
and
to
shit to
27?
take
They
shots.
didn't do a
you
good
know?
job spreading around the ball. in game
Sometimes
1.
you got to just, Kobe said it great. Sometimes you got to empty the clip. Your
You really
favorite
do.
player. You gotta
You know, when
empty the
Don
clip.
Mitchell had 29 points and he shot like 30 shots. Was it
He was
30?
13 for 30, but he was a 111 from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
So if you
facts.
take that away,
33.
he's actually extremely efficient.
Yeah, no, 3-ball wasn't falling.
13 for 30. So 12 for 19?
That's pretty nuts.
That's actually insane.
Yeah. I mean, they were giving him the
Well,
lane.
yeah.
They were
He was
giving
going
him
to the
what?
lane. He was going to the lane. He
No,
was
what was you
finishing
gonna?
on
You
the
gonna
back.
They're
lie?
not giving him
No,
the
no.
lane.
You
He
just
was
about to
paying
lie. Say
for
it.
the
They were
rim
giving what?
with
They were
the
giving
East.
him the lane.
You're
They were
lying.
not giving
They
him the
didn't
lane.
give him the lane at all.
They let Donovan Mitchell get downhill.
Yeah,
You know what? Take the layup.
Don't take threes. Don't take threes, please. No.
Well, he got off 11 of them, so I mean.
They're treating him like Ben Simmons. Go to the rim or foul.
With
Miles
all-
Garrett's
with
at
all
the
due
game.
respect to Don
Shout out to
Mitchell, I
Miles
mean, we
Garrett.
know he's a great player.
Hey,
He's not
get
Anthony
it
Edwards.
in one. That's a foul. Call it.
You know, I was thinking about it this week as a Pittsburgh sports fan. It really hasn't hit me until now that you really have to like a lot of these players in the Cavaliers to root for a Cleveland sports team when you've been a Pittsburgh fan your entire life.
Okay. But the
I can
Browns
see
are
that.
so ass that, like, why? Does
You
it
guys
really
don't
bother you?
acknowledge them, right? Like, as Steelers fans, y'all don't really
Like, that's why
acknowledge them.
how I feel like I don't have no problem rooting for Philly. Like, because the Sixers, that's little bro. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care.
You're also Jets. It's no real.
The
I hate the
difference
Phillies,
is
though. I
that
fucking hate the Phillies.
Pittsburgh and
Mets.
Cleveland.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh and Cleveland are so close; it's nearly a
Yeah.
cross-town rivalry where
Okay.
they don't fly a plane to play each other. They ride a bus for an hour and a
I
half.
respect the hell out of that. So it's
So-
real beef. I
It's
respect
not
the hell out
necessarily
of it.
beef,
Not like real sports beef. You know what I'm saying?
but it's like New
Yeah,
York and Philly,
I felt that.
but closer.
Yeah, I felt
little
that.
bit.
I'm glad
Yo.
Cleveland is giving us a series.
Hey,
Jesus Christ. One
Hey,
game.
what do you mean by that?
Because they could have lost game 2 without all
If
these
they were down
players.
2-0, series is over.
I feel much better about the series being over if that's the case.
you know what's interesting?
With all the injuries, absolutely.
Who still?
This was a
pass.
must-win for Cleveland. You disagree?
must win, yeah, because you're injured. Your players are injured,
Yeah,
but
I mean, you
you can
don't wanna go
still
down 2-0,
Yeah, you can still win too.
can win,
Like we've
yeah.
seen. Come on, dude. We've seen
saw the
so
Bucks
much.
do it.
Yeah, we've seen so much.
Healthy teams.
The Bucks weren't healthy.
Don.
When?
3-point really is off.
Against the Nets?
No. Yeah, you're right. They were healthy.
They were healthy.
Yeah,
Healthy as shit.
Yeah,
They
they
had
were
nobody out.
I mean, listen, D. Mitch is that good. With all due respect,
He's amazing. Second best shooting guard in the world.
In Indiana, that's fine with me. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. You're not saying much.
1A, 1B.
I'm just saying he is that good. He's a top 15 player.
Yeah, he's that good. Like
Yes.
Indiana don't have nobody that's better than him.
No, they don't.
Respectfully, they don't have
Currently.
nobody that can go bar for bar from him in scoring department.
No, currently,
respectfully, they don't have nobody that can guard him. Respectfully,
No.
He plays against elite defenses, unlike these other two guards, and he kills them. Respectfully,
Anthony Edwards doesn't play against elite defenses.
name one.
The Lakers post trade deadline.
You don't even. You don't even acknowledge
Who's
them as an
guarding
elite
him,
defense.
man? DFS?
No.
Respectfully.
And against Dallas last year, he averaged 27, 7, and 7.
27 or
you just saying
27.
how-
27 points, 7 rebounds,
okay.
7 assists.
Were you not just saying Tatum struggled against a Mavericks team who the perimeter defenders were a so-so?
No, they played zone on Ant.
Okay. So
They
it was-
play zone a lot.
Yeah, they did.
honestly,
I mean,
that-
yeah, like
Ant
Luka playing
sees nothing
one-on-one.
from zone. The Lakers were triple teaming Anthony Edwards. I mean, it's not like Indiana's on the league defense, though.
Welcome to being a
No,
superstar in the NBA.
but D. Mitch just killed the lead defense. This is what he does, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Ant's the first player to ever get double teamed, man. You didn't know that?
No, he got triple teamed.
He's the first player to ever
I
get
didn't know
triple
that.
team, as if
Yeah.
Steph doesn't see 4 to 5 different dudes. It really does paint a narrative.
Well, we'll see this
All I
series.
know is I'm glad you said 2 because I don't mind A-Man being better. We need to cut the D-Book gimmick, though. I'm glad you put him
His
2.
ass is comfortable.
Yeah, we could cut the D-Book. I wish he was here. Not you, obviously. I wish he was here because I'm sick of
Who's
the
still
D-Book.
saying D-Book, though?
What's your issue with Devin Booker?
He's just not as good as Ant or Don.
Ooh, not as good as Strong. He's just not better.
Not as
I would say
good.
he's not better.
This is a man
Not as
that's
good.
been
Not as
the-
good was fake disrespect.
This is the man that's been a one and a team that went to the finals. This is a guy that in the 2023 playoffs was
4 years ago? 3 years ago?
2021 was
2021, 4 years
Just a
ago?
minute ago.
3.5 years ago.
An NBA
4 years,
an NBA
2021.
so it's a
That's a damn near a
So
decade
2 years ago, he went into the second round of the playoffs, and he was
awesome.
practically
destroyed Denver.
the best
was
offensive
practically
player
Michael
not
Jordan.
named Nikola Jokic in that postseason.
I'll be honest. A lot of people destroyed Denver.
It's true.
How about Miami in the finals?
Jimmy Butler?
Okay, they didn't look like they belonged on the same court. They
You
they played Denver in the finals.
yo,
And
dude,
everything they did everything they did
Are
the
you
3 rounds
throwing
before.
a party because you beat an 8th seed?
No,
Oh.
no.
And I think we can comfortably
No,
admit Devin Booker
but-
and Donovan Mitchell are better
How about-
scorers than Jimmy Butler.
All right, how about Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker in the second round?
Well, Kevin Durant played well.
Devin
D-Book
Booker
torched them. That's what I'm saying.
Fantastic. It's a pretty good team.
Yeah, no, I'm
The
saying.
Suns with a Hall of Fame point guard. Pretty good team.
No, I'm
Pretty good
you
team,
bringing
Rick.
No, D-Book torched you guys, right?
And the first round, they played the T-Wolves. Not a bad first round opponent.
Ant torched you guys. That's my whole point here. Did Ant not torch them?
I think, listen, John, 2 years ago, Devin Booker was probably the best shooting guard in the league,
And he
but
did
2
it
years ago
in the
was a while
first round.
ago.
He did in the second round.
Did.
He was incredible in that playoff run.
That Clippers team was extremely hurt.
Not gonna lie, missing the playoffs is crazy.
Who's a better son, Chris Paul or Devin Booker?
What?
Devin Booker.
Oh, son. Oh, I thought you were saying like son, like somebody like I thought.
No,
something.
like, who's a better Phoenix son? Who's
Devin
more
Booker.
important to their success?
Devin
Who
Booker.
was more important to their success?
Well, you're saying like when
When they
because when
played?
Chris Paul got there, they made the run. Like, okay, but who's a better son? It's Devin Booker. Like he's
Yeah, he's
been there
gonna
for
go
his whole
there
life.
He's been there for a
He-
I
decade.
just talking about when they played.
He's
when
been
they
there for
played
a
together,
decade.
Chris-
Youngest player
Well,
in
Chris
top
Paul was an
70.
MVP when they
I
played.
think when you stack it up, I think
Wow.
Steve Nash is number 1, Chris Paul's number 2, Devin Booker's number 3.
Wait,
In terms of most impactful when they were there.
Whoa.
Chris Paul
You
was
say Chris Paul number 2?
Where's
Chris
Amari
Paul-
Stoudemire, dude?
I'm talking about post 2000s. He was a big part of
Where's
it.
Amari
I was
Stoudemire?
gonna say there's some guys before
I
then.
think
Kevin
Chris
Johnson,
Paul was the
Tom
biggest
Chambers.
catalyst to the Suns being good and making the finals. I think he was the
I
biggest.
put
catalyst.
Nash and Stoudemire over Chris Paul, respectfully.
He played a big role, but Devin Booker, I mean, he
I-
was averaging like
I
27.
might put
like-
Chris Paul above Stat. So
Stat was so.
I understand
Strong.
Devin Booker was averaging the points, but Chris Paul was the reason why they were winning.
No, for sure. I mean, he gets hurt, and shit kind of goes left.
I don't hate it. I thought I didn't understand your question at first.
I just
Chris
don't
Paul
think-
doesn't have the longevity with the Suns.
shot.
But if you just say in those years, who was more impactful to the Suns being a 60-win team, making the finals,
arguably Chris Paul.
I think it's Chris Paul.
I don't hate that.
And then since he's left, you see how much they've fallen off.
D
and
Book was the
lack of leader.
franchise player, but to argue,
They've also
Chris
made some
Paul
stupid
had-
I
ass
was gonna say
decisions.
they made some awful decisions, like trading for Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant just hasn't really been able
And the
to win.
DeAndre Ayton trade was terrible because when you look back at it, they
Toumani
traded Toumani
Camara
Camara
and-
and DeAndre.
And they just got nothing
I
back.
just look at
'cause
Chris Paul. I
Nurkic
think
is-
he's the
Chris
most
now.
Chris Paul is
underrated.
impactful as hell.
He's the
dude.
most underrated, not only floor raiser but ceiling raiser ever. Because you look at the Hornets he got there.
Ever?
Yeah,
Yes,
he
yes,
might
ever.
arguably,
Like
yes.
yes,
Ever?
ever.
Ceiling
One of-
raiser.
Yes, floor and
Floor
ceiling
raiser.
raiser.
Floor raiser
You look at what
consistently.
Like
he
Michael
got,
Jordan, LeBron James.
he got
like-
historic level seasons out of the Clippers.
Non-goat
They had their
territory.
best
Okay.
they had their best franchise seasons ever when Chris Paul was with the Clippers.
Okay.
He goes to the Rockets. Their floor was they made the conference finals with Dwight
one of the
Howard.
greatest
They
teams
weren't
ever played.
able to get over the hump. He goes to the Rockets and he pairs with James Harden. They make the finals and take one of the best teams ever assembled in history to 7 games, and he was hurt, and he was a big reason why they won Game 5. He iced that game, and you can argue he was more clutch than James Harden in those stretches. Then he goes to the Suns, and they make the finals in his first year, and they win 65 games the very next year. I just think wherever Chris Paul has gone, whether he's been with the Hornets, he's been with the Clippers, he's been with the Rockets, he's been with the Suns, he's either raised their floor exponentially or he's raised their ceiling.
Absolutely, and he's also changed so much for franchises that went through like a lot of like different. Like he was in New Orleans like 2 years right after Hurricane Katrina. He immediately helps. And same with the Saints in that point in time. The Clippers, there's so much going on with ownership. With the Suns, there's a lot going on with ownership. It's kind of crazy that through all those times of turbulence, he consistently got those teams to very deep stages and the highest points in their franchise. I mean, the Hornets, he gets there, turns them into a 56-win team.
Yep.
He's nearly beating Tim Duncan, the Spurs, in the second round of the playoffs, where the supporting cast, like, all right, like Tyson Chandler was written off after his time in
Everything
Chicago.
ran through him.
David West became an all-star because of Chris Paul. At that point in time, Peja Stojakovic went on his last
Sniper.
legs. And he got all of those
James
guys to play
Posey
their
and
best.
shit like that.
So
He got DeAndre Ayton right for a playoff run.
yeah, and
He was one of the biggest catalysts for him
DeAndre
having
Ayton's
effort.
motivation levels since then have never been lower. And from his time with the Clippers,
I think that's a DeAndre.
It really is, man.
Chris Paul was able to be the one player who,
to get through to DeAndre
He got
Ayton.
through to him.
Low key, that should be on his resume. Got through to
Yes.
DeAndre Ayton.
That's an impressive feat. And you make a great point. He's dealt with a lot of bullshit throughout his career, consistently been an amazing floor raiser, but because of injuries, people tend to forget he's someone who's consistently played at a higher level in the playoffs. He's gotten better.
He's a
in those-
playoff riser.
in those postseasons. But unfortunately, he's just had a lot of injuries, whether it's to him in 2018, 2021. They go to the finals anyways after he was hurt. So I think his career, it's one of the most misunderstood in NBA history.
Like I think Steve Nash is one of the best floor raisers in the history of the game. I think Chris Paul is just as good as Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
not saying you're not saying nothing wrong.
So I think that's how I view Chris Paul, and
CP3's better.
it really depends on how you view
It's a toss up.
tenures with franchises, right? Because Steve Nash had the MVPs and he had the multiple conference finals appearances. The Suns always ran into juggernaut teams.
And he also
whether it's
never got a player at
as
his level or to like
Stoudemire's really good though.
you just come
He's
on,
averaging 27 a night.
dude. Really?
And then he got to the Knicks and he was with Raymond
Devin
Felton.
Booker was
on all
averaging
NBA.
You just
27 a night.
bro, you just shunned me away when I said Stoudemire over Chris Paul, and now you're talking about he's really good.
He is good. I just don't think he's Chris Paul, but
He's not Steve Nash then.
but no, he's not. But Amari Stoudemire, he was going toe to toe with some of the best big men at the time.
Let's be so like all the way serious. He
was.
wasn't going like toe to toe.
Yes, he was.
No, you're gonna pull up numbers.
Yes,
I get
let
it.
me box
the
score
numbers.
watch
We're
for
gonna
you.
box score watch.
Yes,
But
let me
my
box
point
score
of being
watch.
is he never got a player like a 1A, 1B type of situation where I think Chris Paul had that in James Harden. He had that with Devin Booker. Nash was never able to get that type of talent. Like he had Amari Stoudemire, and I think Amari Stoudemire is a great player. I think he's an all-star level player. But when you count him up, like he didn't have a Devin Booker. He didn't have a James Harden. He had, for the most part, they had really good role players.
He had Kobe.
The 2 stars. And they, what?
He had Kobe.
Oh, when he broke his
he had
back.
Dirk
out,
too in Dallas.
Yeah, but Dallas ain't Steve Nash. Phoenix is Steve Nash.
Yeah, that's
With
Kobe's
Stoudemire,
crazy.
four
Kobe's nuts.
playoff runs, 46 games total. Stoudemire averaged 25.5 points, 9.4 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, and he shot 52%
a
from the
dog.
field.
He's one of the most underrated players of all time.
I love
I
Stoudemire.
feel like Amari Stoudemire because I was watching his some playoff moments from him last night with the Suns, and I feel like oftentimes people think that it was just like super pick and roll heavy, and there was a dose of that, and Steve Nash giving him the ball, but there was also a lot of face up. I'm just giving the ball to Stoudemire at the elbow or at the baseline. You make a move and you get your own basket, and he self-created a lot of his baskets as well. As much as Steve Nash did and created for everybody, Stoudemire self-created a lot of what he did, and at a time where you got to go up against the Tim Duncans of the world and just other all-time big men in that era in the West. The Paul Gasol's, like, he gave it to them.
He gave them good.
Yeah, he gave it to them.
Chris Paul is great. You just caught me off guard when you said one of the best ever. You know?
He is. You look at the BPM
Everywhere
and stuff.
he's won.
You look at the
Everywhere.
VORP and
Oklahoma
BPM.
City,
Yeah.
Houston,
Yeah, sure.
Phoenix.
And I even forgot about the OKC thing.
LeBron.
He was traded away. Well, LeBron. I mean,
Jordan.
when we talk about GOAT level, I mean, that's the thing.
Like
Like,
non-go territory.
Say ever.
so
Non-go
imagine,
territory.
Magic.
Magic Johnson doesn't belong in a conversation then.
Well,
Because
Magic's in a different conversation.
but
Chris Paul, respectfully.
but Magic Johnson ain't as good as LeBron or MJ
No, but he's also way better than Chris Paul.
Like comfortably. He's like top 5.
as players.
top
I don't know.
7 ever.
What? Stop.
I mean,
Stop.
What was their claim with Steve Nash's teammates? He never played players because James Harden. Or
As Devin Booker,
as Devin Booker.
I guess.
He did play with Dirk in 01, but
you
no,
don't
I'm,
think
I'm,
Stoudemire-
I'm saying like Phoenix.
You don't think
Phoenix-
Stoudemire's as good as Devin Booker? Like, I know they're different positions, but like Stoudemire is best.
I don't think there's a huge gap between
Yeah, I
them.
don't think I wouldn't.
Like, I think there's a huge gap between him and Harden for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's a slight gap between Devin Booker and Stoudemire. I don't remember, like, the league. Stoudemire was probably covered around top 20, top 25. Devin Booker at his best, probably top 15, stuff like that. So, like, slight
Yeah,
gap.
I mean, top.
It's just having another perimeter-oriented guy to go get one. Like, I know Stoudemire could go get one, but just having that guy in the perimeter do
They
that.
had it early with Joe Johnson and
Yeah, they just,
And they let him
unfortunately,
walk.
yeah.
yeah.
sorry.
You know, they had him, but no, because the thing I was talking about with Chris Paul and Steve Nash is it just depends on how you measure 10 years. Longevity, you could play that into a factor. I think that's the biggest factor people often
Chris
play
Paul's
into
better
it.
longevity-wise.
You look at what Steve Nash did with the Suns, multiple MVPs, conference finals, but never got to the finals. Chris Paul, one finals appearance. He was only there for what, 3 years at most? And one conference finals appearance and 2 second-round appearances. One that they really choked against Dallas. He's only there for 3 years, you know.
think
So
Chris-
if you count the finals that much more over like the body of work, then maybe you can say Chris Paul, but because he got them to the finals, and Steve Nash didn't do that.
I think Chris Paul has the lower scale LeBron thing where everywhere he's gone they've won to a degree. Like they didn't win championships, but they're competitive. They won. They're always a heavy, not a heavy favorite, but they're always a favorite in whatever conference. Well, he's actually played mostly in the West, so yeah, he's always a favorite in the West. They're always at the top of the West. He has that like lower scale LeBron thing where longevity, I think Chris Paul comfortably clears because I think he was better early, and he was better a little bit late. But you're just talking peak for peak. I think that's where Nash walks into these conversations because 27, 28 where he got to Phoenix, and then he started to be that type of guy. Okay. And he was that guy for a while from like about 36, 37. So it's a good chunk of time. But Chris Paul was great when he came in, great in the middle, great when he left. Well, great when he's going to leave.
Yeah,
so.
Nash is a player that he's weird because he really didn't break out until his 30s.
It's like
a Steve Young career arc.
Yeah, he had like
it's wild.
6 years of
He was
like
really good.
dominance.
It was like his first 3 years was bad. Then the next 3 with Dallas, he was really good. And then Phoenix is like, shit, this is the guy.
Yeah, it transitioned perfectly into talking about the modern day Steve Nash.
Yo, I cooked, right?
You did?
Good job.
You were ahead of the curve, man.
Tyrese
whether you wanted to
Haliburton.
or not.
Whether I wanted to
like
be
Tyrese
or not.
Haliburton.
You know, Tyrese Haliburton now is getting the Steve Nash comp left and right everywhere. I'm looking up and they're like, man, this guy's, Steve Nash, A lot of our content creator friends, they're making the take and they're putting polls on Twitter of who reminds them more of Steve Nash and who they'd group him in with. It's just somebody said it a couple years ago that, got some flack for it. And, now it sounds like it's a thing that's, becoming a thing.
Give him his credit.
Yeah,
Give
Riv, you
him
deserve
flowers.
a lot of credit for
Pioneer.
for giving Haliburton to Steve Nash.
It's crazy how I hated and I still came up with a good take.
And now it's becoming a
you
thing.
Made the take, you're like, hold on, I'm gonna say something, but hold on.
But I told Dehls just before the show. I said, now it's becoming popular to say it. I think I'm gonna hop off the wave. I started it. I know I did it. I started the trend. It's over with.
So high.
And also, you want to know why I want to stop it? Because I don't want Tyrese Haliburton to be under the shadow of an all-time great that is going to be very hard to get to, and it's going to be another reason for people to hate on him for. Because what Tyrese Haliburton is he's a top 5 point guard in the NBA.
Stamped.
I think it's stamped. I think number 1, you have SGA or Luka 1 or 2. At 3, you have Brunson. At 4, you have Steph. You can interchange those two as well. Doesn't matter what order. And I think at 5, Haliburton is right there. And I think when we talk about pure point guards, talk about one of the best playmakers in the league, I look at Luka and I look at Haliburton at that position. And, you can go with either or. I think Haliburton means that much to the Pacers offense. And it's interesting just hearing a lot of takes about Haliburton and false narratives that oftentimes have to get proven wrong. But the Pacers offense rating this year with Haliburton on is a 119.5. That would be tied second. Their offense rating with him off is 111.5. That would fall to 21st. Last year, it was 123.5 when he was on, 118.9 when he was off. So their offense, even when he was off, stayed relatively great, even when he's off. But that was 1 year, because the year before, it was 118.3 with him on, 111.3 with him off. And the year before that, his first year in Indiana, 117.5 with him on, 111.9 with him off. So that's a 3 or 4 year sample size that we have of Haliburton when he's on the court for Indiana's offense is an elite level unit. And when he's off, they fall off to bottom 10 offense in the NBA. And you look at all of his advanced metrics across the league, 5.9 assist turnover ratio in the playoffs right now, 31 assist points created, on pace for the most per game in the playoffs in history. He's fourth in assists per game in the playoffs. And then for the season, he was 10th in EPM, fourth in offensive EPM, only behind Nikola Jokic, Giannis, and SGA. This is the type of offensive impact we're talking about with Haliburton. And he was first in assist to turnover ratio. And over the last 3 years, he's been top 10. All the advanced stats point to it. The PER numbers point to it. He was third in PER amongst point guards, only behind Luka and SGA. Like, all the advanced metrics point to him being one of the most and very impactful players in the league right now. And I think in the playoffs, he's played at a different level, much better than he played last year. And I think he is a stamped top 5 point guard in the league.
I think that's an interesting conversation because there's a few different guys in that range who I think all are deserving of recognition. Trey, I think Hallie, and then also Cade Cunningham as well. I would argue among those three, he's the most well supported with the guys that are able to maximize his skill set. But I mean, as far as this year's went, it does feel like he has, after finally getting healthy, and shout out to our guys Logan and Carson from Nerd Sesh, who kind of talked about this multiple different times in the show, he has looked like that version of himself when he first got to Indiana, where the scoring has looked just as good as it's been. He's a mistake-free player, and he's been what's amplified the skill sets of these guys. And I feel like winning game one is another great example of Indiana proving that they belong on the stage of contending caliber teams, and Haliburton at the head of the charge.
Yeah, I think Hallie, his biggest knock for the last couple of years has just been the consistency, right? When you look back to 2 seasons ago when they go on the in-season tournament run, right? Like how great he was at the beginning of the year. And then second half of the year, due to injury, he just wasn't that same player. You look at the beginning of this season, you know, of course, we were making the jokes, the home road splits, him sleeping on his own bed. And we joke about it, but it was also like kind of who he was, right? He was just a player that, for whatever reason, it was home road, but the consistency was never there. He would have some games where he looked like a top 5 point guard, and he looked like, you know, an all-NBA level player. And then he had other games where he legitimately didn't make a shot, right? So I think Haliburton's number one thing was really just getting to that level of consistency, mainly as a scorer, because I think throughout all of this, he's been amongst the league's best playmakers. He's been amongst the league's best just in terms of decision makers. And he's been leading a top offense for multiple seasons now, right? And they've made some adjustments, of course, bringing in a guy like Pascal Siakam, being able to develop guys like Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, who a guy that's been kind of in and out of the lineup due to injury as well. But as long as he had some sort of semblance around him, just with talent, they've been able to produce this great offense. And Rick Carlisle deserves a ton of credit too, right? He is one of the best coaches in the NBA, one of the best offensive coaches in the NBA. The pace that they play with, he really uses all of their skill sets, right? Of course, Haliburton leads this ship, but all of these guys are in good position. It's very rare you see a Pacers just kind of off night where the offense isn't flowing and it feels stagnant. I feel like they're always producing quality shots. The ball is constantly moving. They're getting out in transition. It feels like even at teams as good as, you know, Boston or OKC, you saw moments like last night in the clutch for OKC where things kind of got stagnant. Everyone was kind of looking around. Shea was just going one-on-one, which, you know, has been great offense for a majority of time. But the Pacers played a different brand of basketball, and Haliburton has really been the charge of that. As great as he's been as a 3-point shooter as well,
38.
If he's able to keep this level of scoring up, where he's been an efficient shooter and he can, you know, make those pull-up threes and he can still attack and get downhill like we saw in round 1 against the Bucks. Right now, as we stand, he's a top 5 point guard. I think he stamped himself after that first round playoffs and how he finished the regular season.
Over Ja.
I would have him over Ja. Yeah, definitely, I would have him over Ja. I mean, if you like, listen, when you talk about the 5th best point guard in the league, that changes year to year. It's really like the number 1 and 2 guys. It's hard to knock those guys off. But
Definitely.
you're talking like 4 through 7. That could change next year. It could be Cade. You know what I mean?
Call me next year, man.
Definitely.
Hey, getting a little spooky.
Hey, man, we run out of tank. We ain't tired of shit, bro.
Getting a little spooky.
D-Mitch trying to, 40.
Closing on 40.
40.
So where does he rank for you? 5th? Is he 5th? Is he over John Morant for you now?
I
I don't
mean,
think
like,
Ja's the name that you're looking at. That spot.
what I think? I think it's funny about those type of conversations because I think 90% of our conversations that we have are always in the moment, and we're talking about that specific day. And then people love to get a pile of information after, and then talk about it later, and then be like, "Yeah, this information after I said it that day is the reason why I was right." You bring up Ja. We were talking about it that day. A lot has changed that day.
A year ago.
Yeah.
When
You know what I'm saying?
Haliburton had
Not that
one
much
good
has
stretch.
changed.
No, what's changed was Ja was dog shit 2024. Great 2025.
But what back then, their offense has been
No,
better.
I pulled up the numbers. I was actually capped. I remember that. Yeah, I did remember that episode. I did
but
pull up the numbers.
Haliburton leads better offenses.
Yeah, but you lied and you said it was a negative.
The half-court offense has been negative.
No, I pulled up the numbers. I'll pull them up again after. It was complete cap.
You're telling me the half-court offense of Grizzlies has been bad?
I pulled up the numbers. Like John said though, John Morant ain't the guy we talking about that's gunning for number 5. John Morant ain't the guy we talking about. LaMelo ain't the guy we talking about. Trae Young ain't the guy we talking about. Damian Lillard ain't the guy we talking about.
Let's respect Trae.
For some reason,
Respectfully,
I think
I'm
he
a Celtic fan. That's
I think
fine. He always took all to 7.
No, I think
he almost took us to 7.
Yeah.
What
What
the
do you-
fuck is what
I
is
don't-
that?
What do you mean?
When
This
was
is what
that?
irritates me about
like
you,
2 years
Dehls.
ago?
When they-
He was
it the
on the
6
verge of taking all to 7 games a year ago. You better watch
That's a
it.
flex. I don't know how that's a flex.
Anyways,
So
Because he
Cade
didn't
is
have an
what we're
all-star
talking about?
teammate.
I'm trying to get to it.
I have
It's
a
just-
super
he
team.
killed
No,
my
for
whole,
sure. Just
you know.
that was 2022. That Celtics team.
That was not
Or, excuse me,
2022.
2023. That team was kind of it was okay.
Like I said,
right.
Cade is the guy gunning for
Also
number
the
5.
fucking
Oh,
Heat.
all right, man. You know what I'm saying?
Listen to that mid-ass Heat team, man. I'm not moved.
What's
Cade
that
is
say
the
about
guy that's gunning for number 5. He's the youngest out the group. He also, I feel like, has a lot more in his game to improve. I think Trae Young is what he is at this point, which is a great player. It's no disrespect. But I think Cade Cunningham is the guy. This is a guy who broke onto the scene in casual eyes this year, being one of the best players in basketball, being an all-NBA type of player, leading Detroit to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, he dealt with a lot, but I thought he played particularly well. He wasn't this primo superstar, but given what he had to do, he played significantly well. Definitely has a lot to improve on, but that's the guy who I think is gunning for that top 5 spot. And listen, Hallie earned that spot this year. I give him the top 5 spot. I think the 4 you mentioned, probably flawless. You have SGA at 1. Don't know if you said interchangeable, but that was silly. Luka at 2.
Well, Luka's Luka.
No, SGA is SGA. Luka is 2. I think that's fair right now. At this point, Luka can be number 2.
Yeah, comfortably.
I think we have to continue and be consistent here. Number 3, I think Brunson can get that nod. I think that's fine. Steph, if you want to have it interchangeable, that's cool with me. I have Steph at 3, but it doesn't really matter to me. Both of those guys are 3 and 4. Those are the locked 4. Number 5 is Haliburton. But that brother Cade, he's on his way. He's coming. He's coming.
I'll be honest. I think next year, I think he's got it.
He's knocking at the door. And this is a dude he's a dog, and he has that prototypical size that you kind of want nowadays. 6'6", 6'7", big, strong. Can get to his spots. I think Hallie.
6'5".
Who?
Hallie.
Oh yeah. But I think Hallie.
He's just thinner.
Hallie's a pure point guard, so I don't think he's never gonna be this primo scorer like these other guys.
He's like 27
he's gonna be that playmaking guy. He's gonna have that edge. So I think it's gonna be interesting that we go back to our days of pure point guard versus dominant scoring guard. But yeah, he's 5.
I'll take that pure point guard 10 times out of 10.
Over who?
Over outside of the mega stars that are also premier playmakers and elite playmakers like Luka, and I think SGA, not a great passer playmaker, but he's much improved in that department, and just his scoring gravity gives him that nod. Steph, I think, is a great playmaker. I think Jalen Brunson's not an elite playmaker, but he's a really good one. He's a great one. Yeah, I give him the nod over all of those point guards, even Cade. I think Cade, his efficiency has to get better, and then his turnovers have to get better. I think he has to take care of the ball better.
Turnovers are going to be what they're going to be.
With his usage, I get it, but I look at
Schroeder in the
Plus,
playoffs.
their system is very bland, so it's like very much of the consistent same things.
I mean, like, I look at Trae, and I just feel like Trae has just been inefficient for years now. At
6
this
feet.
point, this is who he is. He doesn't finish around the basket well. He doesn't shoot the three ball well.
Takes terrible shots.
Yeah.
So it's just for Trey, you're dealing with a bunch of shot selection. Yeah, he makes guys better. He's a wizard with his passing, but he also has the ball like 99% of the time, and nobody's able to really play off of him. He has to make decisions all the time, and I just think that play style really isn't going to fit around many other star players like Haliburton can. And then the Ja Morant factor, I mean, the lack of a jump shot is what worries me
You saw
about
the
him.
mid-range.
Yeah, I guess it improved a little bit. And
3-point.
I just think the year that their
3-point?
offense was the best is the year that it featured him the least. I think that's something that you got to worry about as well.
Wait, what?
I think Ja's.
That's a lie. Why did you lie?
What did he say?
The year the Grizzlies' offense was the best was the year they
best their
featured him the
offense
less.
is.
Yeah.
Regular season.
I think Ja stock is taking the biggest hit. Like when I'm ranking point guards, he's fallen the most based off.
Yeah, you have a top 100. Where's Ja?
Top 100 is hilarious.
I have him right around 10.
Grizzlies offense.
Wait, no.
What are they?
Oh,
You think
sorry.
they're the
I'm
best
on point
player
guard.
statistically?
Okay.
Yeah, around players, he's in the top 40.
Yeah, you're insane.
Hope.
Hope.
Yeah.
Wait, so who's the 9 you have over Ja?
Luka, Shea, Steph, Brunson, Cade, Tyrese, Trey, DG, Kyrie. And then I think De'Aaron Fox is like that. De'Aaron Fox team is right where
I don't hate
Ja
that
is.
list.
I might have Dame above him. I want to.
And
have Dame
LaMelo
above
to
him.
me just feels like, at the moment at least, he's just a losing player.
Oh, it's
I don't think he has winning habits. And I know
Yeah.
the Hornets they
terrible.
suck.
They're the worst
I'm not saying they
franchise.
don't suck, but
Probably the worst franchise.
LaMelo does really nothing to uplift that situation all that much either with the type of shots he takes. And if he gets to a good situation, I think he could change the way he plays. But as of right now, I just don't think he's a winning player. And I feel like we always use these hypotheticals for Haliburton. Like if LaMelo was with the Pacers, or if Ja was with the Pacers, or if this guy or that guy, if Trey was with the Pacers.
You can't really have those arguments, though.
They'd be so much better. But I can have the argument that, maybe you might get a better offense if Haliburton's on the Grizzlies instead of Ja.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think it works the same way.
I will say in
How you
LaMelo
figure?
Ball,
Because
Ball's
he
defense,
is more connector. He makes quicker
Who's he
decisions.
connecting
He's a better
with?
He
shooter.
doesn't turn the ball over.
Who's he connecting with?
Desmond Bane.
I mean, I think it's clear Haliburton has led better offenses. Than
Yeah, but
all these teams talking
I
about.
think Rick Carlisle's system is much better,
That's
and I
not
think they're
wrong.
more fluid.
I think Rick Carlisle's system is amazing.
like we got it.
But I
like,
also,
watch the Grizzlies.
but the first year that Tyrese was with the Pacers, Buddy Hield was the second leading scorer, and
Buddy Hield's
he
an elite
but
shooter.
he made Buddy Hield look like a star. What we do with Desmond Bane?
Desmond Bane looks like a star with Ja.
Exactly. So I think Haliburton would make him better. I think Haliburton would make him more consistent.
I think they have a better offense. I don't know. Does
Yeah,
Bane become an
like,
all
I think
NBA
you're
player
just saying
now?
No, I'm
things.
not saying that, but I'm just saying it's
Like you
just you're
think
gonna get better
Tyrese
shots.
Haliburton is gonna make Dylan Brooks make open shots when they play?
I think that he'll make Jaren a lot better
At what?
at just pick and roll, pick and pops.
Jaren doesn't set
like we
screens.
have to understand that Ja Morant has, in all of his time with the Grizzlies,
Wait, John Morant's not a bad pick and pop player.
pick and roll in his pick and roll points per possession since he's been with the Grizzlies is 0.83.
And Jaren doesn't set a lot of screens.
But I'm just saying that Ja Morant's points per possession on pick and rolls is below average. Since
yeah,
he's
but
been with the
that
Grizzlies.
doesn't that once again, like I told you before, that doesn't really equate everything. It just if it goes in, it doesn't go in. It
I
doesn't
think
equate
that
Make him
everything.
miss league
the shot
sometimes, you know what I mean?
shot quality is a big factor. though.
Well, I mean, yeah.
There's a lot of factors that
yeah,
play.
I think
don't-
the Pacers offense is so good with Hallie because of the shot
Well,
quality.
Miles Turner is a much better pick
Yeah.
and pop player than
They just
Jaren
said
Jackson
the
by
team,
far.
Team is deeper.
Their shooting percentage from three has kind of been similar over the last 3 years.
Yeah, but it's not about similarities. I think it's just about who. First of all, who's a better screener, and then on top of that, who's just a better pick and pop player.
Miles Turner isn't really rolling to the rim all that much. He's
He's a
pick and pop player.
standing at the three.
Yeah,
I
Jaren-
think
Jaren
I
don't
think
do-
Jaren and Miles Turner.
I think
and-
Turner's a better roller.
I don't know if
By
Jaren knows what he
far.
wants to
Like
be.
Yeah.
Jaren
And a
doesn't
better
do that.
screener and a better shooter.
Jaren is not. He's not a real pro. Like he's not a real big.
I think Tyrese would make Jaren more efficient than what Ja is with him with their pairing.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
tough. I think
Yeah,
you have a lot of factors.
it's
I mean,
just too much to
Indiana's
equate.
system and Rick Carlisle, they have one of the best offense system in the league. So I think it's
Yeah, it
tough
just
to,
drops off when Hallie's not on the court. Be sure.
Yeah, I mean, because you're going to TJ McConnell.
I mean, you said last year they didn't drop off.
Yeah, but 3 of the 4 years they did.
How many of those
drastically.
teams were actually good though?
The last 2 years, but the bench was similar
Well,
to
last
this
year
year
their
versus
bench
last year.
wasn't their bench one of the best last year.
Yeah.
their bench-
That's
Because
why they were
they're
really good.
deep. They go.
And this year they had Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench,
Yeah,
and I
he
think
was
he's
hurt
giving
all
them a
of it.
huge spark.
I will say in defense of LaMelo Ball, because you
Here
called
we
him a
go.
losing player.
You're in Drew's chair, so
You got to
Here
defend
I
the
am.
you
Melo.
got to defend Bo Nix and
the
LaMelo Ball.
Hornets this season,
They're way better with him on the court.
That team is
Went 3
fucking
and 31
terrible.
without LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, that team
Where'd
is
they go with
dog
them?
shit.
They played at a 6-win pace without LaMelo
6-win
Ball.
pace is actually hilarious.
With LaMelo Ball, they went 16-31, 27-win pace. Also pretty bad. But you could have said that PJ Washington was a losing player a year and a half ago before he got sent to Dallas.
You did.
You could have said that Daniel Gafford was a losing player in Washington before he got sent to Dallas.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of different cases, and it's more extreme with star players because they have more responsibility.
I think role
But with a
players it's easier
yes.
to like
That's the
transition to a
thing,
winning
though.
But
player.
with franchises that are so poorly run, I feel like it's still applicable to a young
Oh
star
my
player
God,
that's been there.
D-Nick
But
his entire
Saban.
life.
here's the thing. I feel like Gafford, he was always a guy who could contribute.
He'd be great in Indiana,
Even though
too.
he was garbage. Even though he was on a garbage team in Washington, I felt like he could always contribute. PJ Washington was more of a projection, but his size and his profile made it so he could fit in better if he was just playing a role. I say losing player because LaMelo Ball, anywhere he goes, he's going to have an absurd amount of usage. He's going to be one of the most featured guys on your team. And
I get
with
that.
Do we know that?
But in 2021,
Yes, he does have to. With the contracts he's gonna have.
They were a 43-win team, and LaMelo was still working with Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier.
he
and
definitely was
playing off
sharing the sugar.
ball.
I kind of feel
He
like
was
those
able
teams
to-
were kind of underrated.
But they
I
were
don't think
top
they were
10
bad.
offenses. They were very good offenses.
Nemhard
LaMelo-
needed that 3, man.
I know.
He needed that 3.
Nemhard has 8 turnovers today. He's been struggling.
been tough
LaMelo
games.
on those
Missed some
teams
gimmies.
was taking better care of, was having better shot selection, and
They
he
just
was
had
more
better
efficient
players,
player
too.
because the team was better,
Yeah.
and they're a top 10 offense,
Well,
and they
this
were a
year
43-win team.
was his worst efficient year by far. in the
Without
NBA.
Brandon Miller, I don't think it's a surprise that the supporting cast was so woeful that it was LaMelo and
It's
just
hard
a
to
bunch
take
of
anything
guys.
the Hornets do.
Aaron Neesmith just
seriously,
kicked
bro.
Donovan
No,
Mitchell
that
in
shit
the
was
head.
I
Is
think-
he getting a flagrant?
That shit was
I
nuts.
think there's a reason
he
why.
was trying to jump over him. To
Whenever
be fair.
we talk about LaMelo getting traded like we did the other night with like a potential Houston fit, John, one of the sentences you said was, I think Ime would be the coach to get him right. And that's exactly what I mean when I talk about LaMelo, is that you need him in a situation where you can work out all the bad habits in his game.
It's really just shot selection.
He's
I feel
also
like
been in
that's a
Charlotte
big-
for 3
That's
years,
a big
4
thing.
years.
I know shot selection is a huge thing. He's doing whatever he wants, but that's the main issue in health.
Listen, man, Charles Lee's the Ime disciple.
Yeah, and he's been pretty bad recently.
Well, 1 year. They're
Well,
ass.
Charles Lee, yeah, he's been terrible.
Yeah, I don't think
terrible.
Hornets fans are the biggest fan.
Yeah. So you think if Haliburton was on the Grizzlies offense would be the same? Like if you replace him with Ja?
Listen, I think the offense. Look, I think the offense will get slightly better. I don't want to disrespect Ali.
45
He's a
for
great.
Don,
He's
by
a
the way.
great passer. But I think when people say Memphis' offense was better this year, yeah, statistically, yeah. But it was also their easiest offense to guard by far. But I do think like Hallie's a better passer. He's a better processor. He's quick with his decision. He doesn't turn the ball over, so it's a lot different. But there's too much variables to just say Hallie can make this guy better. He can make that guy better. I don't think it's just that easy for Memphis. So
Hallie isn't like the perfect situation for his skills.
yeah, I think like Hallie's being great, but I think people don't bring up what Rick Carlisle has done with Indiana and the system that they have in place. Like Hallie is the system, but the system also works a shit ton
And
for the guys
won.
they have.
This game's nuts.
I'm getting fucking pissed.
Yeah.
What's the score?
108, 113. They just scored an and 1.
Cleveland's up by 5.
You're sweating.
Yeah, bro, we're running out of gas, dude.
Mitchell's got 45.
He has 45 points, bro.
Here comes Haliburton.
He's not him.
No,
It's
see,
like
I don't know. I haven't seen Hal hit a shot.
I haven't seen him do anything.
He
but
has 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. I gotta watch this game
he
back.
has
'cause
that, and I know you and Carson gonna go on
Sometimes-
Twitter. Oh my God, look at Hallie.
20
He just-
potential
He
assists.
just makes the next pass so great. It's like fuck, dude. Like
Making the next pass is important.
it's like
It
shit.
is. It
Damn.
is.
Big missed
Jesus.
free throw.
Neesmith has 21 points. I always knew he was him.
Neesmith's a dog.
I always was
Too
high on
early.
Neesmith. I
Call
mean,
a foul.
man,
He was a little too early.
the Celtics not keeping Bane and Neesmith, biggest fumble ever. Like that was like a potential dynasty with those
Bro,
guys.
Bane was just
We traded
dog
Bane
shit
on
against
draft
OKC.
night.
That's his. He got locked in, bro.
They traded Bane on
Tom
draft night.
Pennis Kinner's contract.
But imagine you have Brown, Tatum, Neesmith.
I'll be honest, we
Desmond
weren't keeping all of
Bane.
them. There's no way.
Bane just got 35. What is he? He's a
Yeah.
$35 million player.
Probably don't trade for like Derek White. If we
But
get
he
Bane,
probably
who knows?
on the Celtics isn't like he like would come off the bench and he'd
That's
get
fine.
like
Romeo Lane
one of
for
those
sure.
Pam
They
Pritchard
probably- yeah.
contracts.
Yeah, that's a
That
fact.
might be one of the craziest trades. Like, you guys trade Romeo Langford and stuff for Derek
What
White.
if they kept Bane and traded him for Derek White?
Say it again.
Like, what if Boston kept Bane and decided to ship
Bane
him
for
up for
White?
Derek White? Yeah,
Then people would look at it a little more sideways.
Yeah.
because Bane
Desmond
could've-
Bane would never become the player he is now.
facts.
Same as Payne Pritchard. Like,
Unless
he's
he
not
went to
gonna-
Indiana and played with Hallie.
He is from Indiana.
I don't think you've watched Desmond Bain actually play. Yeah.
I have. Yeah, I have. Remember, I told you years ago that he was a good playmaker in Summer League. I was watching him. I said, yo, listen, he's handling the ball.
Yo, shout out to the fans. You could be telling me the truth right now, and I don't know. Like, I really don't know.
No, I don't.
You told me in Summer League, Anthony Black over him and Thompson, though. I remember that vividly.
Oh, yeah, you only remember the bad things.
Dude, I remember the fuck out of that comment, yeah.
Anthony Black is...
Indiana can't stop scoring.
There you go, Hallie.
I mean, come on. We know he's the difference maker.
4-point game, minute 30 left.
13 points, Hallie.
Yeah, this is live reaction now because I want to lock into this last minute.
Riv's ahead of me, so I can't really watch.
People are going to be watching the podcast like they're just looking at their phones, waiting for this game to end.
It kills me when people say that because half the time we're looking at our phones because we have notes, we're looking shit up. To like everyone's just on their phone.
Strus, give it to me. Daddy! Strus!
I hate Max Strus, bro.
Donovan fucking Mitchell pass. That's what the fuck you do. You pass like that. 2 men on you, on your ass. What do? Jump out of it. That's a real jump pass. Pass to Max Strus. 45 fucking points. Has Hallie ever had 45 in a playoff game? No! He can't do it. He can't go left. Fuck! Donovan Mitchell. Donovan fucking Mitchell. They keep disrespecting him. I'm tired of the D-Book gimmick. He's not better than him. Fuck it. Let's go, D-Mitch. We're going to the finals. All the boys coming back in game 3. Let's fucking go. D-Mitch.
Minute 10 left. Game's not over.
Yo, D.
7-point lead. I don't know. Yeah, Indiana scores so quick.
The Bucks, Indiana did against the Bucks with 38 seconds left.
Dehls, they saw D-Mitch torch Orlando last year. Elite defense. Give Boston hell in the 3 games he played. Elite defense. And they disrespect it.
It struck me the wrong way, man.
It just, why do they keep disrespecting? And you know what?
It's a shame he's not.
One thing about you disrespect Cleveland, but you respect the fuck out of D-Mitch.
I wish, because I love Mitchell, I love Mobley.
Every year, Dehls never miss.
He's a dog. John, rookie year.
Fucking hope.
Paul George, Westbrook, Melo. What does D-Mitch say? Fuck them. Fuck them.
Set them boys packing.
He's a deep.
And that wasn't just any Paul George. That's MVP candidate.
And sent home in the first round?
He had a shoulder injury.
Hey.
He had to get 2 procedures. He had to get a procedure on each torn labrum. No, it was 2018.
Portland.
2018.
Come on, John.
Year after Portland.
Jayson Tatum would never. Come on.
That was the Melo team. Melo team was before.
He would never, John.
It's Paul George, John. You can't tell me. It's PG. Trust me. I'm telling you. Trust me.
And he
played Portland with the terrible. Okay, here we go. Like they threw it to Hallie. He blew past.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Bucket. It was like a 2 was okay.
No, dude. He blew fucking past him.
I mean, that's the post-injury Hallie, man.
He gets by people these days.
Yeah, man. He has that explosiveness.
Screwing around, man.
112 to 117. They scored mad quick.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Who was that on?
I don't know.
That was on Okoro, bro. Shit pissed me off.
I thought he was a good defender.
I thought he was too, man. Can't guard fucking Hallie. All he did was go right.
That's really all he did. He did the same shit against Giannis. Just go right.
You know,
how do they not know? You're thinking like scouting report. Don't let Hallie go right.
It really is harder than like.
No, for sure. Because he's gonna make a move. Looks like he's going.
He got the little ugly jump shot. That shit quick too.
Because a little step back too. He likes a step back 3. You pump for it. Boom.
He's been killing Jared Allen. I don't know why Cavs keep letting Jared Allen guard him, but in the switches, Hallie's taking advantage of it.
Shout out to Hallie.
Not tonight though.
Yeah, no. I mean, what's got 14 now?
You know, but here comes Carson, 15 and 8.
Man, that doesn't look bad though. 15, 8, and
doesn't
4.
Look bad for a superstar. No.
He's actually a +5 on the court when he played.
Oh,
this game, yeah.
Interesting.
It was the bench. McConnell was -15.
Mm-hmm.
Plus minus.
Really.
Plus minus.
Siakam and Neesmith, they were -5 and -8.
Neesmith got a foul trouble. Fucked him.
I mean, it's not
you
like
know, Sengun was like a minus in almost all his games.
I mean, they lost the series.
Well, you said he played well.
Well, they won.
He did play well,
but he was a minus. He was like a minus in almost all his games.
He was the second best Rocket, though.
That's not hard.
No, I mean it's
not
that. No,
Fred was
Steven
positive
Adams.
in half the games.
Fred really.
I mean, are you sure? I think the plus minus.
I lied, bro. I'll be honest.
no.
I have no
Because
idea.
the
I
last
respect it. I would've
after
too.
Game 6,
You
Steven
see how
Adams.
you almost believed me?
I did believe you.
After Game 6,
I believe you're a truthful guy.
Steven Adams was the highest plus minus, and Şengün was number 2.
playing
I mean,
foul
it don't
game.
matter. Even if you was telling the truth.
Yeah, I know.
Mitch kid free throws right at 50.
Let's get it.
Why are they fouling him? Did they
They
intentionally
can't
foul
fucking stop him. That's
They-
why.
they-
That
like,
wasn't intentional.
I don't
him?
know.
No,
Siakam
it
just
was
did some dumb
definitely
shit.
intentional.
See, no, Siakam looks like he didn't do it. Like he didn't know what he like. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a minute left.
They
You
played
don't.
very physical against him for no reason.
Mitch needs both of these, man. Can't fuck around. Got the first.
You're ahead of me, dude.
I am?
Yeah.
You've been ahead of me this whole game.
I was, but you just said got the first, or unless
Oh.
you were just saying it.
No.
We're fake. We're fake.
D
on the
Mitch,
same-
47 points, 15 for 30 from the field, 16 from 20 for the 9
20
assists.
free throws?
Dude, really?
Free throw merchant.
Oh, so you're picking.
He's got 30 shot
You
attempts.
said
My
about
God.
Dwayne Wade 06?
Yeah.
This is baby D Wade.
No, 47 and 9 is crazy.
Yeah, nah, I ain't gonna lie. This is sex. This is better than sex. By
Donovan
far.
Mitchell, man.
A
He's one of
Donovan
ones.
Mitchell
Made
masterclass.
Masterclass. Yo, shout out to Nemhard though. He really be making shots that just like, dude, when could you do this?
At this point
Alley
now,
off
we
the
need.
dribble, going left.
He missed. Please say he missed. Oh, he passed it.
And one. Oh, fell.
They called the foul?
Yeah.
Wow, this game is gonna end in like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
My
I was going to say, we could
goodness.
probably move on to the next topic because these 48 seconds going to take 15 minutes.
Sheesh, bro.
What we got, man? Luca?
This is insane. Yeah, we do have Luca.
God.
I was just gonna.
Never get off him, man.
Never get. We gotta just talk about the guy.
Yeah, no, because
Sick of talking about the Lakers, man.
I feel like we've had there's been this take on the internet. I don't know how Dehls feels about it, that because the Lakers lost in the first round and Luka lost in the first round, that somehow Nico Harrison was right. And
Yeah,
Dehls
yeah.
talked about his conditioning.
Did you see what Zach Lowe said?
I did see what he
About
said.
how he was like, the only thing that makes the trade super, super crazy is that they didn't
return.
make it.
Yeah.
They didn't make it known, but like trading off him is not that crazy.
I think trade him off him. I think he was wrong. But I'll ask you, Dehls, was Nico Harrison right?
We don't know. I think that's the short answer. We don't know. But I mean, it was always crazy moving off Luka. Even, the day the trade happened, I said, I'm not the
He
biggest
missed
Luka
both,
Doncic
and they
fan.
got to put back. That shit just pissed me the
Doesn't
fuck
that shit blow
off.
yours?
Yo, dog. Yo.
Mitchell's
Mitch is hurt. These motherfuckers got voodoo, bro.
I'll be honest, he's getting a breath. He's getting a breath right here. He's chilling. We'll talk about Luka though, because we love Luka Doncic on this podcast. I think calling Nico Harrison right or wrong now is way too soon, right? Luka Doncic going to this offseason, put his head down, really lock in, come out next season, be a passable defender, and you look like an idiot. Luka Doncic could also go into the offseason and kind of do what he's been doing and get exposed in moments, in the biggest moments on defense, and the AD is healthy and they're the 1 seed and they go to the final. So, I mean, I think it's too easy one way or the other. As we stand right now, I still think he was wrong, right? Like, I don't think you move off Luka Doncic, a 25-year-old superstar who's on his way to being a first ballot Hall of Famer, who's on his way to being the best player in your franchise's history. That includes, some all-time legends like Dirk, who, got a chip over that Heat team. So, as we stand right now, he's still wrong because, number one, I just don't think you trade off a 25-year-old superstar unless you were able to get Giannis, Jokic, where it's like, you get a guy that's in the top 3, top 4 players in the world who aren't like completely past their prime. Like if you went to go like a Kevin Durant, for example. So I still think he was wrong. And, number two, if you do move off Luka, it's like what Zach Lowe said and what all of us said when the trade happened, you make it publicly available. Even though it might mess up the relationship's already messed up when you kept it private, right? Luka doesn't like you. Your fans don't like you. Nobody likes Dallas or Nico Harrison right now. So the fact that you made it private really wasn't better. If you wanted to move off Luka Doncic for what their reasons were, the conditioning, defense wins championship, believe it or not, whatever you want to think, you at least make it public so there's a bidding war. All of a sudden, does Minnesota want to move off Anthony Edwards? Are the Bucks interested in moving off Giannis at the deadline or in the offseason? But to just keep it between one team and one guy in Rob Pelinka, and your return is Anthony Davis, who, is a top 10 player probably when he's healthy, and one pick. That's why Nico Harrison was wrong, because you went out and got a pretty, I don't want to say terrible, but a bad return for what Luka Doncic is actually valued at.
I felt like the biggest takeaway I have once the dust is officially settled. It's been how many months now since the Luka trade in January? February? 3 or 4 months. Nick and staff from Locked On Mavericks had a very simple take on it that I felt like summarized the Luka Doncic trade very well. It's that in sports, when you're a GM, and you inherit a player like Luka Doncic, you don't get to necessarily pick your superstar because there's 25 teams around the NBA that would die to have that player. Obviously, with Luka, there's some qualms you could have defensively. He hasn't given you much effort, and it does feel like he's had some injuries the last 2 years in the lower body that maybe the Mavericks had some more information that they want to move off him early. But the decision in and of itself, to me, is more. It highlights more kind of a, I think, an arrogance and a negligence of an NBA GM to think that you can do better than getting a player like him, whom you got when you got the job. It wasn't like this is someone who drafted Luka in 2018. No, that was Donnie Nelson. So I felt like looking at the trade now for the Mavericks side of things, yeah, it's not like Luka ripped off a finals run for a second year in the row, but y'all were in the playoffs. You're going into the lottery this year, and you're praying you can get a player nearly as good as him as an offensive piece. So it was Nico Harrison right about Luka. I think no matter how you spin the move, no matter how it ages, I think for Dallas it's always going to be the least rational move in NBA history.
Yeah, and real quick before you guys go, Dallas fans have even said, like, if we even won a championship, right? Like a team that obviously hasn't won since Dirk damn near 15 years ago, even if we won a championship with Anthony Davis, it still feels like this is a bad move, right? So if your fan base is telling you, even if you do what you're trying to accomplish and win a championship, it's still not going to be enough for us. And that's a really hard place to be if you're in the front office.
Yeah, I know, Joel, you're going to do your thing on it. My thought process on it is short and brief, man. I don't like the process. Regardless of if they win a championship, if they win two, if the Lakers don't win, I don't like the process of how you went about it. You have a generational talent in your building. If you really hate him that much, if you really feel like you can't win with this guy, whatever. There are idiots in the world. There are just
ton of idiots.
There's a ton of idiots. People aren't always smart. Fine, make that dumb decision. But by God, make him available to where we should be looking at a Luka treasure chest trade value. You should be getting 6 first-round picks, 5 first-round picks, 7 first-round picks, 4, 5. Like what we used to think Steph and LeBron costed when you traded for them. That's the type of value you should get for Luka. And you didn't do that. You just silently went about and got somebody who we know Nico Harrison damn near loves and adores, and Anthony Davis has talked highly about him prior to the Lakers. Has damn near a man crush. The way Mark Cuban has a crush on Luka, it's kind of how we are with that. So I hate the process. Hate how it went about. I also think Dallas, you just went to the championship last year. There was no way. Your team's just been banged up. There was no way where you should have at least finished the season. If you don't make it, then you can have all those nonsense, stupid conversations. But you trade him at the deadline. We're close to the deadline. Ridiculous.
I think it's a testament to how great Luka is that he can average 30 in a playoff series on 61% true shooting and be criticized in the way that he's criticized and have people seriously considering that Nico Harrison might have been right in trading him. I think it's the most idiotic thing ever. I think Luka, to a certain extent, has become underrated now with his impact. Trading Luka Doncic, the Mavericks making that move, is like if after 2006 they traded Dirk Nowitzki. You lose to the Heat, you blow a lead in that series, and Dwayne Wade thoroughly outplays Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk wasn't the best defender. They eventually built a roster around him that got him to a point that he can carry the load offensively and he can have great defenders around him. But Dirk also, in 2007, lost in the first round as the first seed when he was MVP to the 8th seed. And they still stuck with him because those type of generational talents you don't move on from. You take the good with the bad. And Luka Doncic may have had his habits, but he just led them to the NBA Finals. The year before, their roster was so bad. And the year before that, they made the conference finals with Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock, and Dwight Powell starting as his supporting castmates in the starting lineup. Jalen Brunson hadn't broken out yet, but he was very pivotal to their run. But Luka dismantled the Suns in the second round. He wasn't the best against the Warriors because they had a clear plan to just ice out all of his teammates and just force him to score the entire series, and he was met with a lot of defensive pressure. But overall, Luka Doncic, when he's had a competent team, the floor has been the conference finals. and then his best team ever, they make it to the NBA Finals. And I thought the Mavericks came into this year with a better team than last year. Yeah. They added Najee Marshall, who I thought was better than Derrick Jones Jr. They added Klay Thompson, who replaced Tim Hardaway Jr., and I think Klay Thompson was better than him as well.
Had a solid year, too.
And then they added Quentin Grimes for nothing, who we saw he went to Philly and averaged 22 a night.
Quentin Grimes is arguably the best pickup.
And Quentin Grimes...
That trade was truly...
It was ridiculous.
Idiotic.
Yeah, they traded to get Caleb Martin.
That was like Nico Harrison, like just fucking around, giving the phone to his son. Like,
we're talking about a Dallas Mavericks team that they made the finals. They lost Hardaway Jr. and they lost Derrick Jones Jr. and they brought in Klay, Quentin Grimes, and Najee Marshall. That team, I think that team right now would have been in the playoffs if Kyrie Irving didn't get injured. I think that team right now is a serious threat to go to the NBA championship again. Yeah. Like, I think they were that good. Yeah. So to trade Luka Doncic, I think it was super unfair because Luka finally got his best team ever. The best supporting cast he's ever had in Dallas. And Nico Harrison just ripped it away. And now I feel like with the Lakers, he's starting all over.
Right. There's definitely a domino effect where there's an alternative reality somewhere where Nico Harrison just goes to bed early on the night that he trades Luka. And Kyrie ends up never having to play as much as he did, and he never gets hurt. And like you highlighted, the team that they built last year was awesome, with their front court being, when you combine the minutes of their two centers, pretty damn elite defensively. And then you merge that with the versatility of the wings. It was the perfect team to go on a playoff run. I feel like, did I miss one?
Oh, we got 8 seconds left. Pacers are down 2. Hallie's got the ball. Ty Jerome's on him.
Set up.
Oh!
Haliburton! Yeah! You're talking all that smack about Haliburton, and he hits a shot like that. You better respect him. You better understand his greatness. You said he couldn't break nobody down as an offensive player, and he broke somebody down for the game-tying shot in the fourth quarter. Tyrese Haliburton, understand his name.
This might be the worst minute of my life.
Oh my God.
This might actually be the worst minute of my life.
Oh my God.
How do they not get the rebound?
Yo, first of all, the Pacers played some of the best inbound defense I've ever seen, like 4 possessions in a row. They just could not inbound the damn ball. They had to call a timeout.
Oh my God, the Pacers won. They won the game.
Yeah, they won.
Oh my God, Tyrese Haliburton gave them. He gave Giannis. He gave Donovan Mitchell. He was the best player on the court.
Okay, really.
Stop playing. Yeah. Oh my God. Yo, I put $100 before the podcast on the Pacers to win the series.
It's a W.
Oh my God.
This might be like the worst minute of my life.
Oh my God.
Dude.
No, the Pacers down the stretch of that game were flawless. Getting the rebounds after free throws. Hallie misses a second free throw here. They get another offensive rebound. The inbound defense again. Cleveland missed some free throws down the stretch.
Who did he hit that 3 on?
Ty Jerome.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
Yo, do y'all remember what I said to Ty Jerome, bro?
What'd you say?
Remember when I said that I can't wait until Haliburton cooks y'all?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Cleveland down 2-0, heading to Indiana. Wow. I mean, damn. Because Cleveland was in control that entire way. Like, they were, you know what I mean? It was almost this is reminiscent to last night's Nuggets Thunder game, where the Thunder are ahead by 8 to 13 points the whole way. The Nuggets would make this comeback, but the Thunder kept on answering. And then those last few minutes down the stretch, they finally were able to break through, making it like a 6-point game, a 4-point game. And then those last minutes, man, just outplaying them possession after, they had to outperform them basically like 8 possessions in a row to come back. What was it? A 7-point game with a minute left? A minute 10 left?
Wow.
Damn.
Oh my God.
All they had to do was inbound the ball.
Hey, credit to the Pacers because no one was open. Like, they didn't miss a read. They were locking up on those inbound plays.
Dude, that's fucking insane.
Shout out to Hallie. That was a tough shot. I'm fucking devastated. I'm fucking devastated. They just blew After I just said, no way they're going to blow this lead. They fucking blew the lead. They were up 7 with like a minute.
Nah, Mitchell had 48, 5, and 9.
Yo,
and
credit
lost.
to him. These fucking bums failed him. Nah, bro, this is crazy. Down 0-2. Going to Indiana. What can you do? Team, I don't know who's going to play. D. Mitch is fucking limping at the end of the game. He's hurt. Yo, oh my God.
Donovan Mitchell has 48 points. Ty Jerome 1 for
Terrible. He was awful tonight.
Max Strus was unbelievable. Dean Wade plays 30 minutes, gives you 3 points. Jared Allen gives you 22 and 13. Merrill was pretty decent, 14. Yeah, I mean this is a game you're looking at Ty Jerome like, you know what I mean? Game 1 you were pretty good, like maybe not the most efficient, but you stepped up when we needed you to.
Oh my God. Dude, that's insane.
Max Strus is minus 14. That's insane. I felt like he was their second best player. Maybe third, Jarrett, but
Oh my
shit to
God.
say.
All right, we can end the podcast on that.
Holy
you guys can
shit.
follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod and on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Here, Dehls.